Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 149 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you again on another Wednesday night, June 28th at 7:07 p.m. My favorite episode of the year because the NHL draft is happening during the show this time, and that's friggin' exciting. But before we get into all the fun and all the stuff outside of hockey, apparently I didn't mute the stream out to the side, so I just heard myself. So I can read the Twitter chat, but before we get into all the fun stuff, Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's
Haven't
one
seen
of the
your mock draft in the outline yet.
yeah,
so
I forgot to
later
add
on.
that. I'll have to put that in at some point when I'm done with all the Patriot stuff that's breaking. But yeah, on top of the NHL draft, absolutely loaded show. I can't remember the last time we've talked all four sports, being the Patriots, Celtics, Bruins, and a little Red Sox to end the show. Nothing too crazy with them. But yeah, a lot going on. It is good. Trying to work on the outline here, so that's why I may not look like I'm paying attention, but I am all ears if you want to jump in. I know hockey is obviously the big topic of the night. If you want to jump into whatever your jumping off point is with the draft happening or anything that's happened, because the Bruins did make a pretty big trade as well, and they've been linked to a lot of things over the last 24, 48 hours or so.
Yeah, absolutely. The latest note, it sounds like there's a 50% chance Montreal will be keeping their pick. There's been rumors that they can move down the board, that Nashville could be trying to move up. Other teams, maybe Washington, looks like we'll have the first pick in the next 5 or so minutes, if I had to guess. Just another note, Nashville, like I said, wants to move in the top 10. They're also looking for a center. Don't know if that means they're looking for a center with the pick or with one of their picks because they have 2 firsts, or if they're looking for a center elsewhere. But without further ado, starting with the obvious number 1 pick, Connor Bedard, transcendent talent, ridiculous shot, hockey genius, superstar in the making. We'll go to Chicago. We'll play with Taylor Hall. Is a kid that I realistically think could score just about a point per game a year, maybe about that. He's that good. I'm extremely excited to watch him play. This is a no-doubter. It never has been, and it never should have been. But that's just the way it is. Connor Bedard's going to go number 1 tonight. But then it seemed like for a while Adam Fantilli was a slam dunk number 2, but that doesn't appear to be the case anymore. There's been speculation over the past month that, maybe it's Leo Carlsson, maybe they take the swing of Matvei Michkov, maybe it's Will Smith as an outside option. I'm sticking with Fantilli though. Pat Verbeek is a mysterious guy. He gets that from old friend Steve Yzerman, so it's kind of hard to get a read on him. But I'm sticking with Fantilli. I think he's the safest pick. I think he's close to like a center version of Matthew Tkachuk. And after that playoff run, teams are going to be looking for guys like that. And Adam Fantilli is fantastic, whether he goes back to Michigan or not. He's a slam dunk pick for the Ducks here if they choose to take him. Another divisive pick, depending on who you're talking to. The Columbus Blue Jackets at 3. I had Leo Carlsson penciled in here for a long time, but it sounds like recently, although they do still have interest in Carlsson, it sounds like Will Smith is going to be the pick. And he was my guy for a while at 3, just changed over the past month. But for a while throughout the season, I've had Will Smith. And they can't go wrong here. Not just saying that because I'm a BC fan and he's a BC guy. Number 1 2005 recruiting class coming in this fall in the country. Will Smith's very good. He's been compared to Mika Zibanejad. I think that's an apt comparison. He's super skilled, super smart. It's just a pure offensive dynamo. And I think he's only going to get better. And as he gets stronger, San Jose Sharks, I'm not sure if he's super close to fellow Swede William Eklund, but this is a slam dunk for the Sharks, having Leo Carlsson, the big center, who's been compared to Mikko Rantanen, drop into their laps. They could go Michkov here. I don't think they will, but I don't know. Mike Greer and the staff's been kind of quiet and ho-hum on draft stuff, so it's kind of been hard to get a read. Not sure what's going on the stage right now. Pecorine and Rowan Yossi are bringing out a blue Gibson guitar for some reason. Guess it's because we're in Nashville.
Are they gonna make it cheesy like they did with the
I don't know,
the awards show the other night? I don't know how much of that you caught. Sorry to cut you off,
nothing.
But just that's kind of where my thought process is how much can they dork this up like they did the award ceremony from a couple nights ago or from last night.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, but it is Nashville, the Music City.
True.
So I guess it makes sense. Montreal, another team where it seems like it's Ryan Leonard or David Reinbacher, but after about a few weeks ago, there was a report that the Canadians are not super comfortable with the idea of taking Matvei Michkov. Sounds like that's changed. Could all be a smokescreen, but I'm going with a safe pick here. Could see it very well being Ryan Leonard, but I'm going to go with David Reinbacher, the first defenseman off the board. The 6'2" Austrian defenseman. You don't see Austrian at the top of the draft too often, but he really improved his draft stock throughout the year. He's 6'2", great skater, fits the modern mold. Right shot defensemen are more commoditized than left. The Canadians, to my knowledge, don't have a great stock of prospects at that position. They've got a couple really good left shot defensemen. Why not get a right shot to play with one of them sometime down the road? I think David Reinbacher could be at worst a number 2 defenseman, but definitely at number 1 from what I've seen and read. He's a very good player. And the Coyotes have Ryan Leonard, another BC guy, dropping into their lap. Some consider him a Matthew Tkachuk comparison. I think that's very fair. He's a great scorer. He's not the most like fast, super like quick skater, but he's powerful. He plays hard. He plays like a bastard. And I think any team who gets him is lucky. And I bet Philly is hoping for their sake. They're not comfortable with Michkov, that a player like Ryan Leonard drops into their lap because he plays such a flyer style. And for a team like Arizona that's rebuilding a little bit on the fly more so these days, as they're trying to get a little better, I think Ryan Leonard's the type of player they need. They got some skill they've acquired in their prospect core over the years. I think Ryan Leonard adds skill and some edge, and can absolutely be a really good top 6 winger on the Coyotes down the road. And this is where I think the Michkov slide ends, unfortunately, because I don't think they deserve this. Matvei Michkov, another guy also coined by many as a hockey genius. In some ways put up a better draft eligible season than Alex Ovechkin did. So just think about that for a little while.
That's crazy to think about. Yeah.
He's not the biggest guy, but like I said, his hockey IQ is off the charts. He's a fantastic scorer. He's got a nose for the net, amazing hands. In a year, Connor Bedard isn't in this draft. He's absolutely the number 1 pick. He would have been the number 1 pick last year by a long shot. He's fantastic, but his contract status keeping him in Russia for the next 3 years lines up pretty well with Philly's rebuild timeline, and the right team will take him, and will likely be rewarded for it, because some teams are having some pause because he might not come over if he doesn't like the team that drafts him. And I think that's why Washington's trying to trade up, because they're very good with Russian players, and I mean they still have Alex Ovechkin, drafted Ivan Miroshnichenko last year, so. I think they're praying to get Matvei Michkov. If he makes it to 8, I don't see a scenario where they don't take him. But here I have him going 7, just a gut feeling. And like I said, he lines up with their rebuild timeline. Capitals don't get a bad consolation prize though in Dalibor Dvorsky, one of my favorite players in the draft this year, has really boosted his draft stock over the past few years. I believe played against men over in the Allsvenskan too, so that's good experience for a young player. Did pretty well. The Capitals need anything. I think they should go best player available, and I think Dvorsky is very well that player. Another defenseman off the board goes to Detroit. They have picked 9 and 17, but I have them going Tom Wielander, the future BU Terrier. As of like a week ago, he made that decision. The right shot defenseman, very good. You know, another guy like Ryan Bacher, a little bit smaller, but fits the modern mold. He's a puck moving defenseman, good skater. I don't think the Red Wings can do wrong here. As we're about to have the Connor Bedard pick coming up, I'll put on the audio for that so everybody can hear the sound. Number 10 is Zach Benson for me. This is a guy, due to his size, is going to drop, and teams are going to regret it. Super skilled, super elusive, amazing hands. Some historically good WHL production that gets overshadowed a little bit by Connor Bedard. But he's fantastic. I don't think St. Louis can go wrong here. They got 3 picks, got to go for skill. And
3 picks. I'll let you do that first.
Okay, they're not getting into it yet. Put that off to the side so everybody can hear the announcement, even though we don't know who it's going to be. 11, Nate Danielson, friend of Connor Bedard. Sounds more and more with time that he's going to go around like the 10 to 15 range. I had him at 16 for a long time. It sounds like he's going to go a little higher. I'm going to put him to Vancouver. They're looking for centers. Nate Danielson's the center. He's a hard worker, good skater, great shot. I think you can't go wrong here with Nate Danielson, but I could see them going for a defenseman.
China Pats, the Western Hockey League, Connor Bedard.
There it is. There it is, folks.
For the surprise of everyone. Yeah.
The surprise of everyone, Connor Bedard is officially a Chicago Blackhawk.
How long do they have to pick in the NHL? Is it, I can't remember what the NBA and the NFL did. Did they take the whole 5 minutes like a bunch of a-holes and keep everyone on the edge of their seats?
Sometimes.
Big Thunder.
Oh boy, don't even talk to me about that.
Yeah,
now
we're
here.
gonna.
One of my favorite players in the draft, going 12 with the Jacob Chikrin pick that Arizona now has, is Axel Sandin Pellikka. I like what Reinbacher and Vilander provide a lot. Vilander jumped up draft boards a ton. I think if his status stayed the same, he'd probably be a second rounder, but he had that good of a draft season that he's a potential top 10 pick. I'm going Axel Sandin Pellikka. They don't really have a lot in that prospect core in Arizona. I love Sandin Pellikka. He's a fantastic skater. He's super shifty, has offensive capabilities, really good ones. I think Arizona can't go wrong here. Oliver Moore to the Sabres at 13. Thought of by some as the best skater in the draft. The kid's a speed demon. He's going to Minnesota next year. I think if you're Buffalo, you're trying to contend sooner rather than later. You can't get too picky on positions at this point. You've got a lot of skilled players, but I think you got to try and go best player available here. All of them more at speed and skill and high hockey intelligence. I don't think they can go wrong here at all. Gabe Perreault, another one of the BC boys. The Penguins love their shifty skill players and scorers when they do have draft picks, which is rare. Or at least they should. Sometimes they strike out. But this guy, Gabe Perreault, just screams a Penguin to me. His skill set. He broke Austin Matthews' scoring record, the U.S. development program this year. He's fantastic. I think he's the best player available here, left at 14. Nashville wants to get heavier, I heard. So the best player to do that in the first round is Colby Barlow. The guy looks like he's mid-20s in his 30s, but he's 18, 19. He's a beast. He plays hard. He bundles people. He plays like a bull in a china shop and has a great scoring touch. I think Nashville would be really wise to take him here. Matthew Wood, one of the most fascinating players in the draft this year, played not too far away at UConn, had got there early as a 17-year-old, enrolled a year early, and put up just under a point per game as a freshman. He's 6'4". He's ginormous. He's a great scorer. Can really protect the puck well. Comparisons have been drawn to Tage Thompson, ironically enough, another big UConn forward. Matthew Wood for the Calgary Flames here is something they can't go wrong with. I feel like I've said that a lot, but I mean it. So for lack of a better term, that's what I'm using. I think Matthew Wood could be a really nice fit in the top 6 of the future with Matthew Coronado, the Mats in Calgary. They just need skill, and Matthew Wood provides size and skill, a rare blend of it in this draft that not a lot of players can say they have. But number 17 to Detroit, another guy that has a lot of size and skill, Samuel Honzek, dealt with a pretty rough injury this year, but the kid can really skate for a 6'4" forward and is really has a really nice scoring touch. I don't think Detroit can go wrong here. I think they need some size in their prospect core, and Samuel Honzek can provide that. Otto Stenberg, this is a guy that a lot of people see early second round, a little later in the first round, but I think the Jets go for one of the surprises here. Maybe take him a little early, but I don't know a ton about Otto Stenberg, but what I've read is pretty good. Sounds like a good, responsible two-way forward with some scoring touch. I think if you're Winnipeg, you're just looking for safe bets here. When you're getting down the draft one, there's not a lot of these super high upside guys you can go for. I think Otto Stenberg is a safe, responsible pick. Braden Yeager to the Blackhawks with the Brandon Hagel pick they got last year. Guy that's fallen down the draft boards a little bit with a disappointing draft eligible season, but it's a really good player. Once thought of as a good two-way guy, but I heard reading around a little bit, he kind of struggled defensively this year, so maybe the Blackhawks have the work cut out for him a little bit. But Braden Yeager was once a guy that could have been considered a top 5 pick in this draft. With Chicago having so many picks, I don't hate them taking a swing on him here. Seattle Kraken, they just need skill in that prospect core. It's such a new team. A guy that's not quite the mold of the modern puck moving defenseman is Dmitry Simashev. He's 6'4". He's known for his defense, his smarts. I think this is a defenseman that like I said, doesn't quite fit the mold of like a Reinbacher or a Vilander or an Axel Sandin Pellikka, but are we still good?
I think so. What happened?
I just said it's just said we got signed out on another device. I thought the Zoom call was going to end. I don't know who's signing in right now. But
someone's making a surprise appearance.
I don't know, dude. But if this Zoom gets called, I'm gonna
cut off again. That would not be
out.
good. Yeah.
Simashev, really good pick. A lot of people think we'll go higher, but I think he can be a shutdown defenseman in the NHL someday. The Kraken just need to build up that prospect core, such a new team. Mikhail Gulyayev, this is going to start a run on defensemen. Some people see him as a second rounder. I've seen him in the first round a lot, though, and I think the Wild could stand to improve the left side of their defense. Some of the guys they drafted in the past few years, like Carson Lambos and Ryan O'Rourke, I feel like aren't really delivering so far in their prospect growth. I don't think you can go wrong with another left shot defenseman in Mikhail Gulyayev. Philadelphia Flyers from LA and Columbus take Oliver Bonk, son of Radek Bonk, best name in the draft.
Mhm.
Oliver Bonk, I mean, the London Knights are a prospect factory. They've turned out guys like Patrick Kane, Mitch Marner. What's the other name I'm forgetting? Matthew Tkachuk. They just produce NHL talent. I don't think you can go wrong with Bonk here. If you're Philly, looking for anything you can get for talent for the future here, as this rebuild's going to take a little while, no doubt. The New York Rangers temporarily ended the run on defense and take the big, rangy Russian forward Danil But. Danil But, when I watch him, is a carbon copy of Charlie Coyle in some ways. And I say watch him because I've watched a little bit on YouTube. It's been hard to get a read on Russian players with them not in international competition and limited viewing online. Danil But, what I have seen, like, he handles the puck and shoots so similarly to Charlie Coyle, who was also a first rounder. But from all accounts, sounds like he is definitely more of a high upside skill guy. Sounds like a guy that's an absolute nightmare to get off the puck. I think if you're the Rangers, you're going best player available, and I don't hate taking a swing on Danil But here. I don't think they can really walk away from the draft podium too upset about that one. Tanner Molendyk, one of my favorite defensemen in the drafts, goes to Nashville at 24. This is another guy I've seen in the second round a little bit. I don't really get it. I love Tanner Molendyk. He's super smooth skating, really smart, puck-moving defenseman, fits the mold. Nashville, they need some help on that back end. Traded this pick, ironically, with one of their left-handed defensemen in Matthias Ekholm. This is Edmonton's pick. Tanner Molendyk's a great player. I don't think they can go wrong here. I said it again, probably going to say it a few more times.
Nobody's going wrong in the first round.
He's one of my diamonds in the draft this year. I like him a lot. Edward Shala, another guy potentially as a top 5-10 pick 6 months ago. Didn't have a great draft season, but I think if you're St. Louis and you got 3 picks, you can take an upside pick here and hope you can turn Edward Shala into something. But yeah, I mean, 3 picks. If you're keeping all 3, I know they want to trade one of them. You can't go wrong here.
Why did you have this guy
Our
falling on
first
here?
selection, we are proud to select from Orebro,
Wow.
SHL, Leo Carlson.
Okay, I'm 1 for 2.
I was
They had the
just gonna
smoke
say that
screen.
that came across my phone on the ESPN app. Didn't want to break the news to you that you were batting 500, but
The smoke screen. It worked. I mean, Pat Verbeek is mysterious. So I'm now 1 for 3 technically. Because I had Carlson going 4 with moving Will Smith up. But it worked. They got their smoke screen in place and it worked. But yeah, I mean, Corey Proman, shout out to him. He had it in his mock draft, his final mock draft this morning. So he must have been talking to the right people, getting behind the curtain of Pat Verbeek's draft room a little bit, which is I imagine pretty hard to do. But the Ducks passing Adam Fantilli, this is going to be something to watch down the road. Everybody talks about the top of the draft. Should they taken this guy? We'll see if they regret not taking Adam Fantilli. I have to imagine Columbus takes him now, having him drop into their lap. He's fantastic, but so is Leo Carlson. So that'll be fascinating to monitor. Another defenseman to San Jose with the Timo Meier pick is Etienne Morin, another guy, great puck mover, had really good offensive numbers for Moncton this year. San Jose needs help everywhere. So this is the spot I could see the first goalie going, Michael Robel, who is going to UMass Amherst this fall instead of back to the USHL. So we'll get to watch him a little bit for watching some college hockey this year. But I don't know. I think, San Jose has so many picks. You can get a goaltender if you want him in the second round. I think you should go for one of the better defensemen in the back half of the first, Etienne Morin here. Gavin Bridley, another one of my favorite players. One of the smaller guys in the draft, but he plays like a maniac. He plays hard on the forecheck. He scores goals around the net. He's got a great quick release. It's kind of a type of forward that they don't really have. They kind of got that in Evan Rodriguez. They might not keep him. JT Comfort is hitting the market. This is a different type of forward that I think is worth Colorado taking a swing at here. Quentin Musty with the pick from Boston That ended up in Washington's hands, then in Toronto's with the Sandin trade. They take Quentin Musty, a guy that could very much go a lot higher. But I don't know. There seems to be a lot of mixed feelings in Quentin Musty. He had a great draft eligible season, high-end offensive skilled winger. Don't think Toronto can go wrong here. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a guy they have too in Matthew Nyes. Maybe I'm in the minority there, but it kind of reminds me of Matthew Nyes. Theo Lindstein to the St. Louis Blues, another guy whose draft stock kind of fell from early in the season, but then rose back up. Some people think he's going to be a late first rounder. With St. Louis taking 2 forwards, I think they should go defense here. And I don't think Theo Lindstein's a bad pick. I don't know if it's Lindstein or Lindstein. I think I said both pronunciations, but bear with me here. Cal Ritchie, another guy, fell down the board. Could have been a top 10, top 15 pick. Not really sure why. Couldn't really get a read on that, but Cal Ritchie, I think Carolina's in a spot with the state of their team. They should just go best player available. I think that could very well be Cal Ritchie. Colorado, the most recent pick to be on the move, get the 31st pick from Montreal in the Alex Newhook trade. They take David Edstrom, a Swedish forward. Believe he can play center and the wing. I've heard really good things about his two-way game. And I think this is just a good, safe pick about where the range people think he's going to go, maybe early second. And to round out probably my quickest first-round mock draft like the NFL.
Gonna say this is lightning quick.
Lightning quick for my standard, for sure. Ethan Gauthier, a right winger from the Sherbrooke Phoenix, high-end offensive skill. Another guy I believe fell down. I think I remember seeing him a little higher on draft boards earlier in the season. But if you're Vegas, you just won the cup. Just go for the best player available. That might be Ethan Gauthier here.
Really can't go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is a good, safe pick. A guy that could be a pretty decent scorer at the NHL level. But that's my first round. Already 1 for 3 technically. We'll see if Columbus shocks the world and doesn't take Fantilli, who falls into their lap. That would be pretty nuts. Ryan, your mock draft now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even have to put mine in the outline. It's crazy that you have
So I'm guessing you had Bedard then Carlson instead of Fantilli.
I did. Yes, God. I did. That was the only thing. What happened?
God.
What happened? Did something crap out? Did somebody make a bad pick? What? Can you not hear me?
Check your phone.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear anything come up over the recording. Is it like blaring in your? You're just gonna text me the entire time? This isn't good. All right, how are we gonna do this then? Shit. Unmute your mic for a second, and then I just wanted the people to see what we're dealing with here. What we're dealing with here.
Okay, it turned off. It did this 3 times this morning, starting at 6:53 in the morning. The fire alarms,
it's a nice way to wake up.
Never show up, so I'm not leaving. I've gone out twice. Oh God, it's starting again.
See, I don't hear anything whenever there's whatever. While you deal with that, I was gonna say that it's crazy. I don't even have to put my mock draft in here because you had every same pick that I had in my mock draft, and I'm just not gonna reiterate the same things you said about every player. So I don't think it's even worth doing. The only thing I was gonna say about yours is I was kind of hoping that the Buttes guy's name was pronounced Butt because the child in me wanted a Bunk and Butt back-to-back pick, which would have been kind of funny. But other than that, like. Obviously, I don't have a lot to input because like the Bruins aren't making a pick or anything like that. So nothing too crazy there. As you texted me though, is hopefully your fire alarm goes off and stays off for a change. You don't have to leave or anything. We're going to switch over to Bruins because that is, at least for me, the easier thing to talk about, even though I am the residential hockey guy here. I guess we'll start with the obviously the biggest Bruins news of the week, or at least the start of the Taylor Hall trade. Of course, the people that missed it, the Bruins, and what was pretty much known as a salary dump at this point, traded both Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno to the Chicago Blackhawks for Alex Regula and then Ian Mitchell, a couple of defensemen. They also made a minor trade acquiring defenseman Riley Nash from New Jersey for Shane Bowers. So just kind of, like I said, a minor move there. The Hall one is the more interesting of the two, though. Like I said, pretty much seen as a salary dump, as you had in the outline here, and I agree with you. Couldn't have picked really a better guy to pair with Bedard after we now know who went number 1 tonight. A guy that has pretty much been in the same spot as Connor Bedard's probably going to be looked at as a guy that maybe is probably the savior, or looked at as the savior of Chicago. You had your third pick here. You were right. Again, if you can't talk on your microphone, Fantilli did go number 3. So like you said, Columbus does not pass up on him. But on the Bruins stuff, nice consolation prize there for the Blackhawks getting now Bedard and Taylor Hall. It stinks as a Bruins fan because you and I were both on the agreement in the camp of, but like Taylor Hall, he made strides turning into a pretty good two-way player here. Took whatever role he was given, went down to the third line. I saw, we obviously had some people think that maybe with Taylor Hall's history, that's something he might complain about, but he was a pro's pro. Storm does not sound good.
Oh, Storm. Yeah, now the power is going to go out. Now your power is going to go out.
It's somebody. Don't say that, please. We can't have that with this as loaded as a show we have tonight. But
hopefully, my fucking fire alarm doesn't go off again for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's happening.
Something's just got to be broken.
Yeah.
But now that you can talk, I'll defer to you because I feel like we kind of share the same thoughts. Like, it stinks that you lose Hall, but it's something that is probably was going to have to happen. You freed up like $6 million in cap space, I think, which was obviously the biggest part of this deal for the Bruins.
Yeah. And interesting thing to note about Fantilli here is he did play with Kent Johnson. No, he didn't. Fuck. I was thinking of someone else. I was going to say he played with Kent Johnson for a year in Michigan, so they could probably be line mates. But I was mixing up my Michigan rosters in my head. But yeah, the Bruins get Alec Regula and Ian Mitchell for Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno. I thought it was going to be a sign and trade at first. That's what my first instinct went with Foligno, which would have been funny for a guy like him. One of those wholesome moments. Adam Fantilli's dad's crying tears of joy in the crowd. But yeah, Regula, known for his heavy shot and more of an offensive game for a big guy. From what I've seen, needs to, I got to plug my laptop in here. Needs to work a little bit on the defensive game, which he can do in Providence. He's only 22, so they don't need him right away. But Ian Mitchell is a guy that Jim Montgomery coached at Denver. So I assume he had some input here and said, hey, I can coach this guy up.
So, yep.
But yeah, I mean, Ian Mitchell really struggled at times in Chicago, mainly because he's playing in a higher role than he should have, and he played in a bad team. In a third pairing role with a guy like Derek Forbort, barring him staying, I think he could be pretty solid with some coaching up for Jim Montgomery. I think they could have got like a 7th round pick in this deal. So the fact that they got 2 cost-controlled young defensemen they can get for cheap is pretty nice. Speaking of young defensemen, Riley Walsh. Love Riley Walsh.
Yeah, this is a guy you're higher on from what you've kind of told me.
Watching this kid when he was like 8 or 9 years old, and he would play defense, and he was the whole team. He would play every position besides goalie. He's been a stud for a long time, and he's been a stud in the AHL. Played at Harvard. I heard some people after the trade say, they regard him as the best offensive defenseman in the AHL last year. He had 41 points in 72 games, which, isn't the highest scoring output for a defenseman per se, but he's really good. He's got decent size. He's a good puck moving defenseman and can put up points. So I like any of these guys to take the third right D spot from Connor Clifton. Although I think Regula is going to go to the minors, but maybe if he shows out, he wins. But Shane Bowers goes. You get a really good defensive prospect that you could use for a guy you don't really have a future for in Shane Bowers that you got for your third string goalie during the season. So it's a necessary evil to do the Hall trade, and you got some depth out of it. And so it's pretty nice. I mean, you can't really hate on it too much. No. Nick Foligno signed a 1-year, $4 million contract with Chicago. He's going to be a nice mentor for their young group. Any other overarching thoughts on these deals from you?
Not really. Like, I don't want to go all doom and gloom here, but of course there is, obviously when this deal broke, everyone kind of had the same thought process that, okay, you free up a decent amount of cap space to try to make a run at Tyler Bertuzzi. You have the Dave Pagnotta tweet saying the Bruins haven't engaged in recent contract talks with Tyler Bertuzzi's camp yet. But with the Hall and his $6 million AAV now in Chicago, the expectation is that Boston will begin negotiations with Bertuzzi in hopes of keeping him. But then you had an Andy Strickland tweet that said the Florida Panthers are among a handful of teams with significant interest in Bertuzzi. And then earlier today, we had like an hour ago, I think it was, from Steve Conroy. He had a tweet saying that things can change quickly at this time of year, but it appears like Tyler Bertuzzi will be heading to the open market, according to a source close to the player. Sweeney certainly didn't give an optimistic vibe, on Tuesday. So that is kind of, like I said, don't want to go all doom and gloom here, but you kind of start to wonder, like, okay, if you made this deal, at least I thought making this deal, you would have to kind of have some assumption that, all right, they're behind the scenes, they've talked to Bertuzzi. They know he's probably going to be back or wants to come back, so that you don't make this deal unless you know that. If he's going to hit the open market and there's going to be a decent amount of teams that are, engaged with him, now I start to worry a little bit here that, okay, you make this trade, you get a couple of prospect defensemen, and you have nobody to play now in your top 6, your top 9, because you traded one of your better wings and lost the other one in free agency. So
Yeah, it's not
kind
great,
of a scary time right now if you want to
but
factor that in.
I'm just holding out hope things can change. And there's also the chance that they go, him and his agent explore the market, don't see anything they like, and circle back. And something works out. So
Yep.
I don't think all hope is lost. San Jose is about to make their pick. I'm assuming it'll be Will Smith, but I'm going to turn on the audio in case they shock the world and take Matvei Michkov as the big swing. As I hit my mic here, a couple interesting names might have just hit the trade market. Speaking of the San Jose Sharks, but I'll get to that after this.
Okay.
Congratulations to David Boyle. Great career managing. Someone who's been great to me and helped mentor me and through along my first year. Also like to congratulate Vegas.
That sounds like Pete Abraham.
George McPhee and Kelly McCrimmon. And like to say hello and thank you to our fans watching around the world and at the SAP Center tonight. To make our pick is Sharks legend, NHL all-time games played leader,
Wow.
Patrick Marleau.
Nice.
With the first selection overall, the San Jose Sharks are proud to select Will Smith from USA Development.
There he is, the first BC boy. He goes off the board. I knew I should have kept him. I just won some money on that. I bet on him to go 4th.
There you go.
Excellent. Put a bunch of random bets in. I'll lose on some. Hopefully, overall, the overall sum will, get me some net positive money here. Speaking of the Sharks, David Pagnotta, 15 minutes ago, some chatter that the San Jose Sharks have talked about Logan Couture and Tomas Hertl. Nothing close, just inquiries. Also, obviously, San Jose is trying to move Erik Karlsson. Both long deals, both older guys, but maybe something with the, you never know what the, wait, hold on. Sorry. You never know what the future holds with Bergeron and Krejci right now, but maybe guys, you might have to explore and make it work. But something interesting to watch. Will Smith goes to the Sharks as well. I hope getting signed out doesn't affect the Zoom recording. That would be really dumb, but worst case scenario, we can
Still
pull
recording on my thing, so
yeah, we can pull the recording, or Ian can. So he's done it before. So hopefully nothing catastrophic happens for the podcast upload's sake.
Storms, sign outs, fire alarms. What else are going to get thrown at us tonight?
I don't know. And Florida's in the mix number 2D2, so that gives you more pressure to sign him.
Yeah, get something done. If he walks the floor, that's going to be so aggravating.
Before we get into more Bruins, like player specific related stuff, they did announce their schedule last year, for this year rather. Home opener against Chicago. Hall and Foligno. Don't know if that was, I imagine that was finalized before the trade, but
kind of funny, kind of ironic.
I'm going to be at the Patriots Giants game on my birthday, the 26th, and now the Bruins and the Rangers played the day before at MSG. So I might have to make it a Bruins Pats weekend.
That would be, that'd be good.
Be a little expensive, but if I can make it work, you can make it work. But yeah, I don't really have any overall thoughts on the Bruins schedule in terms of like matchups and stuff. But
what are your thoughts on the day
once we get some more finalization on the roster?
There was one, because I saw the video too of them with all their obviously being the centennial year, whatever they're calling it. I can't remember the name of it. But all like the celebration days, I guess, lack of a better term. I saw some people on Twitter. There's one particular day where it was the return of a champion or whatever. And that led some people to believe that maybe the Bruins are going to retire Zdeno Chara's jersey this year. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because that was kind of the big takeaway from a lot of people I saw on Twitter.
Be great. They should do it this year.
Okay, I think so too. I think that was kind of, when he retired, we kind of maybe, I don't know if we talked about that or not, but I think both of us kind of assumed that maybe that's something down the line with, how much he's been around the team lately and kind of the stuff he was doing at the time of his retirement, that maybe something might be in the works where he is going to have his number in the rafters, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy obviously deserves, have something like that happen for as great as a player and a leader and all that person that he was.
Yeah. And the first time they will play Bruce Cassidy following the Cup is in Vegas on January 11th. And then in Boston on February 29th. So that's a couple of games.
Something to watch out for. Absolutely.
We're not going to read into it too much, though.
No.
They are changing the uniforms, though. For 1 year for the Centennial, they're going with the throwback uniforms. They're honoring the eras, as they said.
Mhm.
I love the idea of it.
As
I
do
think
I,
people
yep.
have been clamoring for similar jerseys like this for a long time, too. So they're going to make a lot of money off of it. I just thought of how the Canadians pick is going to be pretty interesting here now, too. But yeah, I love the new look. I think it's going to come out awesome, and it's pretty exciting. It's going to be a nice little change, and then you go back to the usual jerseys next year, unless they get so much outcry, they make them permanent. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
think this is a
something.
100-year type of thing. Maybe Patrice Bergeron comes back for that 100 season, hopefully.
Mhm.
We got a lot of news though this week. Dmitry Orlov is reportedly hitting the road, unlikely to be re-signed for Fluto yesterday.
Not really a surprise there. We kind of
Yeah.
thought that right after the season ended. It seemed like there was the reports like days later that he probably is going to end up back in Washington. I don't know if that's still true or not, but I think we both were in agreement that Orlov was a guy you probably weren't going to re-sign. And if you had to pick one guy, like he wouldn't be the top guy on the list, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. It sucks to lose him though. He was
It
a really
does,
good
yep.
fit. Would be a great fit with McAvoy. Speaking of defensemen, could a Torrey Krug reunion be in the mix? As I love,
And would you
he
want
fucked
it?
up the trade with the Flyers and the Blues that ended up turning into Kevin Hayes going for a measly 2024 sixth at 50% retained. Nice pickup for St. Louis. With double salary retention, the Bruins could get Krug for, what would that be? Like 1.6, 1.7, just guessing off the top of my head. We're pretty good, but I'm staying away because of 4 years. I know it'd be
Yeah.
really cheap, and double salary retention would be really hard to pull off, especially with limited draft assets to work with. I'd love it. I just don't think it'll happen.
Mhm.
And I would like it better if there weren't 4 years taken
Exactly.
into age 36.
Yep.
But it would be fun. I mean, especially with the latest news today, which we'll get to in a second.
Just getting the band back together.
Exactly.
Like I texted you, I don't hate these moves, but it's funny to me that they just can't seem to ever just move on from the core guys, which is it's just like I just keep kicking that can further down the road and hope it works out. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like obviously loved Krug when he was here, but I think we saw, especially in the playoffs, like it worked for Vegas quite well. Like you're gonna have to start, I think, transitioning towards those bigger, tougher defensemen that can beat guys or beat guys up, move guys around, stuff like that. Obviously Krug, I think at times plays more physical, than his size may give off. But you, I think, need to start transitioning. The Bruins struggle with it too. You need to start transitioning to bigger, stronger defensemen that can last throughout the season and punish some guys in the postseason.
Also like to wish David
I agree.
all the best.
Just turning up the volume here because we're going to get a map from each cup pick eventually. Let's see. I really hope they don't take him.
To make our selection, I will invite up our former 5th overall in 2005, Carey Price.
Wow.
Oh,
Bonsoir. The Canadiens de Montreal are proud to select David.
He doesn't know how to pronounce his name.
does he not know how to say the guy's name?
Oh my God.
We planned it that way. David Reinbacher.
All right.
I would have been able to figure that one out. And I suck at pronouncing people's names, as we know. Like that's not out of all the guys on your list, that is one of the easier names to pronounce. He could have at least tried and be like Botcher and see if that was good enough.
That was crazy. I mean, did you talk about it at all?
No. Does he even know he was going up? I feel like he was kind of surprised at that too.
Maybe they were expecting Will Smith to drop to 5 and didn't really cross their minds.
Thrown into a tizzy, didn't know what to do after that.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the 4th pick, I threw a shot in the dark for Ryan Leonard to be the shocking pick at 4 to win $250, but that didn't work. But I won the money on Will Smith, so that's good. Back to this though. Next up is the Linus Ullmark trade on the horizon. We heard a rumor about the Penguins today from a radio host in Pittsburgh. Not sure what his sources are like, but it's worth considering because I don't think it's a guy that's just throwing shit out there. Sounds like he's acknowledging the possibility he could be traded. It could happen. There's going to be lots of teams interested.
Yep.
Are you at the point where you think he's gone, or do you think this reported one more move, which, could just be for now, that Elliot Friedman was talking about earlier, is going to be Matt Grzelcyk, and then that's it. And then they run with what they can make happen with, maybe a Riley buyout after that. Or do you think they're going to move Linus Ullmark? Or do you think it's going to be Jeremy Swayman? I don't.
That one I don't I saw a lot of decent amount of people talk about that. I don't understand where the hell that came from. I made the mistake of listening to Felger and Maz talk hockey, which is just at this point, just save the brain cells. Don't do that. Where they said there was a rumor that maybe he said that he wants to play close to home, which I haven't seen. I'm sure you haven't seen anything that has remotely come close to that. So I don't know where those rumors came from. Like we talked about it last week, it falls into the same thing for me as the Hall trade does. It's it sucks. It's a player you really like. Everyone really likes Allmark and the goalie hug and everything. But I feel like the Bruins would be doing themselves a disservice. This guy, as we talked about last week, now, especially as a Vezina winner, I don't know how much you maybe disputed it, how much, a goalie gets you in a trade, but his value is never higher right now. So I think you at least have to explore it. And if there's a trade that helps you somewhere down the line, if you can get a player or a pick back or something like that, re-sign Swayman, go with Bussy or Busu, however you say his last name.
Bussy.
Thank you. As the backup, as we talked about when he signed his extension. And again, it's a tough trade to make, but it's something that I think would benefit your team moving this guy and, freeing up some more cap space, not having two stellar goalies when you really only need one. The Bruins have had, as we talked about before, have had plenty of success molding these kind of not no name, but you know what I mean? These guys you never really heard of into decent NHL goaltenders. So yeah. I'd be fine with moving him. The comments he made, I'm not going to read all of them. When he was asked about it, to me, kind of seemed like he's a guy that may know he's on his way out. But as you have here in the outline, like Sweeney said, as of now, the plan's to keep both or keep him at least. Again, I don't know if you're doing the team the best, you're putting the team the best situation if you don't at least look to move them for something that can help you down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're getting a second and another piece for Ullmark. Maybe if a team's desperate enough to give a first next year at this point, maybe you get that, but I doubt it. It's so rare to see for goalies. Look, I think if you really want to put the team in a competitive position, you almost have to trade him.
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
if you're signing Bertuzzi, because if the reports from Steve Conroy ended up being true, you're looking at signing Alex Killorn, Max Domi. I feel like there's one name I'm missing, but you get the point. Ivan Barbashev was available until he re-upped with Vegas. You're gonna have to improvise. If you can't get one of the guys you need to improvise, you need to hit the trade market, or you're stuck with what you got. Because if you lose your centers, you don't really have Pavel Zacha.
Have a lot,
as a left wing option. You might have to put Trent Frederick on that second line, which I don't think they want to do.
No.
Or George McCullough.
Nor should they do.
You got to figure something out if Bertuzzi's not on the horizon here, and an Ullmark trade could free up a lot of space, and his value is not going to get higher. So Milan Lucic, a guy that they have had interest in bringing back probably for years beyond last summer, but last summer I had on good authority they were talking to the Flames about making a trade for Milan Lucic. I mentioned it on this show.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And I stand by it. It was happening, and they want him back, and he's coming back. I know that on good authority, asking around today, just for my own confirmation's sake, from people I know that can tell me that stuff. And what I also heard from that is they've been talking for about anywhere from last 2 to 4 days about stuff, and they're still ironing out details. As Steve Conroy said, Elliot Friedman said it's all but imminent. Rick Dollywall confirmed it first after a Chris Johnson tweet about it. I'll say this. It's probably going to be veteran minimum with some bonuses. It could certainly help Bergeron and Krejci's decision a little.
Yep. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
That's worth it enough. It's worth it enough. His foot speed isn't there anymore. Never really has been. Never been the fastest guy. But he's still a bull in the china shop. He's a fan favorite. He'll be a great mentor, a great protector. And for the people who want an enforcer, he's as close as you're going to get to an enforcer with guys like him and Ryan Reeves or Nick Delorier. He's fine. His offensive production isn't great, but he's playing friggin' fourth line at this point. If you can get 19 points again like he got last year, or the Flames did, you should be fine with it. He's going to be a Bruin, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I look at him as just like a type of mentor guy at this point, help some of the young guys along. We talked about it before too, and I brought up the fact that, if you do sign him, it's going to probably take a roster spot away from a young guy. which kind of
It's
stinks.
1 year.
Exactly, but it's
And
a
he can
1
be
year
your 13th
thing.
forward too. Like
True, yeah,
if you want to call someone up, like Lucic isn't going to be like, what the hell?
Mhm.
Like he's going to be happy. To be
Yeah, he's
back.
got exactly. He's happy he's back. He's got to know this is probably it. Like he's gonna retire a Bruin. This is again how I look at it. Like you said, and we talked about it off air today. You know, you got to think it helps maybe make Bergeron or Krejci, you know, want to come back a little more. A part of me sitting here right now sees it again, doom and gloom, as maybe if they don't come back, maybe this is just hey, Bruins fans, we brought Milan Lucic back, so be happy about that. But again, nothing too crazy yet. Who's making the pick now?
Arizona.
Okay, I'll let that go then and finish my thought afterwards.
They're all wearing matching suits like they did last year.
Okay.
Let's see. Are they gonna bring Michkov to the desert? He probably signed.
The Coyotes are proud to select from Locomotive Yaroslavo Dmitry Simashev.
Whoa, dude! Even Simashev is shocked.
Now I gotta go back to
Whoa, that
yours
is
and my mock draft. Where'd you have that guy
My
going?
20th pick.
Oh, cool. That sounds like that's a perfect Arizona pick then.
Wow,
God, that
Dmitry
franchise is
Simashev.
something else.
Holy smokes!
It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
The
That
first
wasn't predicted to go
shocker.
anywhere.
I thought the first shocker was going to be his fellow Russian, Matvei Michkov, and wherever he freaking goes.
That guy keeps falling,
And
man.
he's gonna go 7 or 8. I guarantee it.
Ooh, might get that one right then.
He's gonna go 7 or 8. I hope it's not Philly. I hope Washington gets him. I'd be happy.
Yep.
Hope I'm wrong there, but Dmitry Simashev, damn, they must really, really like him. This reminds me much of the Moritz Seider pick, which worked out pretty well for Detroit. So maybe they'll have that same fortune. But Dmitry Simashev, 6 overall, the first big surprise.
First
in the draft
shocker of the night.
besides, Leo Carlson, if you consider that a surprise. But yeah, looks like Milan Lucic is going to be in a Bruin. That's pretty awesome.
Mhm.
We might as well get awards out of the way because there's not a ton to talk about.
Sure,
here.
yeah, just go over the only thing
Yeah.
that we could have talked about was if it was true that maybe the McDavid 5th place vote and Pasternak 1st place vote for MVP, if that was Jack Edwards, obviously it wasn't, but that would have been something funny to talk about if that was the case. And like I said at the start of the show, other than just how kind of dorky things were with the award show that I've seen people say on Twitter, because I have never had any interest watching the NHL award show. For that reason, not a ton of talking points.
Yeah, McDavid won by a landslide. Pasternak got a lot of votes, but McDavid still won by a ton. Biz and Connor McDavid had a really cool bet to that Biz will make a huge donation. I think it was 5 or 10K to the Ben Stelter Foundation. If Connor McDavid shouted out his hot tub in the end of his acceptance speech, that's got to be an easy bet for Connor McDavid to take with his connection to the Stelter family. Pasternak got 1,053 points. Kachuk 741. One voter, I forget his name was I think it was Seth Rohrabaugh.
I never heard of him when I
saw,
yeah.
So that ruined the unanimous MVP. I saw some people were like harping on McDavid. Oh, he hasn't won a unanimous MVP yet. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, who cares? Guys won what 4 or whatever it is up to now. Yeah.
Ted Lindsay's like 3 or 4 MVPs. Erik Karlsson, guy doesn't play much defense, but when you put up 100 points, I guess you deserve to win the Norris.
Yeah.
Not going to really harp on this one too much. It's fine. I mean, you don't see guys score 100 points really anymore. He might not even be
especially
on the
not from the defensive position.
Yeah, exactly. Adam Fox in 2nd, Cale Makar in 3rd. I would have voted Fox, but I get Karlsson, getting it this year. Fox was phenomenal and more well-rounded. Linus Ullmark wins in a landslide. So all the people can shut up about Ilya Sorokin. My God, it was so stupid. Linus Ullmark had so much better stats. Sure,
but he carried him to the playoffs, don't you know?
Linus Ullmark was far and away the best defenseman, goalie in the league this year. Just shut up about it. For Christ's sakes, it was so stupid. It was awesome to see him win too. Connor McDavid, another Ted Lindsay. I mean, most outstanding player.
Surprise,
he should win it every year he's in the league, unless Connor Bedard has something to say about that. Karlsson 2nd, Pasternak 3rd. I forgot to mention for the Vezina, Sorokin 2nd, Hellebuyck 3rd. Calder Trophy, reasonably so, goes to Matty Beniers, the Hingham kid. He wins by a lot, meaning he's now the first Seattle Kraken to ever win an NHL award, unless I'm missing something last year. Stuart Skinner came in 2nd. Owen Power, not too far behind, came in 3rd. Jim Montgomery, the next Bruin to win, wins Coach of the Year by a lot, rightfully so. Historical season. Had an awesome speech about his battles with alcoholism in the past, and then the NHL ruined it.
Just gonna say in the NHL,
a free beer.
Just pissed on that fire. Just
God, fucking
Yeah.
idiots.
Yeah.
But yeah, well deserved. We'll see what he can do this year. He's gonna have a lot more challenges.
real
with the
quick on that, because I
roster.
saw some people argue. They were like, "Oh, the NHL didn't know that he was going to come out and talk about his battle with alcohol." It's like, okay, even
You
so,
have
like
somebody in
maybe
the background be like, "Hey, no,
yeah, maybe push that segment off until like the next award that's given out or something. Just a little maybe commercial break it, and then when they come back, be like, "Oh, woo, free beers for everybody." You don't got to do that right after the guy
Yeah.
just made a speech
Head
talking
on a
about
swivel
that
here,
exact
people.
thing. Yeah.
Head on a swivel. Come on, geez.
Yep. Exactly. Read the room. No better. No, be
Most-
better.
Deserving landslide of the night, though, was Patrice Bergeron. Dominated, and I mean dominated the Selke Trophy vote. It was
Mhm.
not close. He won by a landslide, as he should have. I saw one person in particular, it didn't take me long to find it, said, "Oh, he plays with Marchand and Pastrnak. He doesn't deserve it." Wrong. Watch one game.
Mhm.
Pastrnak played with Marchand and Bergeron if they were like down late in the game, which like never happened,
Yeah. Yep.
and needed a scoring punch. Marchand, Bergeron, and DeBrusque played together pretty much all seasons. So get your fucking facts straight, clown. I'm sure he wasn't the only one. Patrice
Mhm.
Bergeron, 6th ever. Named the damn trophy after him a little while after he's retired, which hopefully isn't this offseason. He deserves it. Lady
Mhm.
Byng Trophy. A lot of people thought it was going to be Jack Hughes, but Anze Kopitar wins it. Can't say I have much of an opinion about it. Nico Hischier, actually, I forgot to mention, had 2nd in Selke. Mitch Marner 3rd. Jack Hughes 2nd in Lady Byng. Braden Point 3rd. The King Clancy goes to Mikael Backlund. Darnell Nurse was in 2nd. Anders Lee was in 3rd. The Bill Masterton, rightfully so, to Chris Letang, who dealt with a stroke this past year. It was still a fantastic player. Went through a lot. Clayton Keller, coming off I think he had a broken tibia, was also very deserving, but I don't know how you can beat Chris Letang's case here. And
No,
Alex
no
Stalock,
chance. Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what happened to Stalock, but he had something happen. I apologize for not having that fact ready. But Connor Bedard was at the awards and won the E.J. McGuire Award of Excellence. Steven Stamkos wins the Mark Messier Leadership Award, and GM of the Year will be announced tonight. We'll see.
Is there a reason they do?
More
Oh,
fun.
go ahead.
I would like to thank David Boyle. He
And
was
no,
the
there
Western
isn't. I have no idea.
Okay, you knew what my
Capitals.
question was going to be. Gotcha.
Drafted me in 1988 in the 7th round.
Let's see.
He got a lot
This is
better.
the shocker.
after that
Keith
pick.
Jones' first pick. Danny Briers too.
Why is it such a
With
long
the
pause? There we go.
seventh selection of the draft, Flyers are proud to select from St. Petersburg in the
There it
KHL,
is.
Matvei Mishkov.
Wow.
That sucks.
Oh, I feel bad. I don't
poor
know if
guy.
he's listening right now, but I have a good friend who's a Capitals fan, was praying for Michkov.
Hmm.
The slide ends. The mystery is over. Point is a hockey genius. He'll be going to Philly. They had some talks with him. I imagine he's amicable to it. That sucks. That
Yes, it
sucks.
does.
It really
Yeah.
does. They do not deserve him. Philly does not deserve elite goal scoring talent. A kid that at the point where he comes over at 21 could score 40, 50 goals realistically as a rookie. Like, he's going to be that good unless something catastrophic happens with his development. Matvei Michkov is a transcendent talent, and he's unfortunately going to Philly.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, seriously. But
Put
we
a damper
transition
on the
back
night.
to the draft. Yeah, exactly. Chris Peters, known draft prospect expert. I asked him a little while back for episode 80 of his podcast, Talking Hockey Sense, for some names for the Bruins in the 3rd round. He mentioned my favorite of the group, Ryan Fine, who's going to Harvard this fall. A little bit of an undersized forward, but can play center and wing, super skilled. And we know Sweeney likes his local guys. Zach Schultz and Paul Fisher. Zach Schultz is a left shot defenseman bound for Wisconsin. Paul Fisher, the same, but to Notre Dame. Don't know a lot about these guys. It's not going to act like I do. But the Bruins, at this point, they have a good left side, but they're training some guys, and their only real studs in the prospect core right now are Frederick Brunet and Mason Lowry, so they could afford to maybe add there. There's a couple names to watch out. A guy I think would be a fan favorite, got in a crazy fight. I forget who they were playing. From the U.S. program, Brady Cleveland. He's a big, mean defenseman, a prototypical Bruins guy. Could you get him a little later than the 3rd round? Maybe, but if they like him enough, I could see them taking him. Plays a mean style, defensive oriented. So that's a name I could see them taking. Zach Wisdom, another guy. His brother was drafted a few years ago by the Flyers. He's going to Colorado College. Cleveland, I forgot to mention, is going to Wisconsin. Another guy that plays a tough, rugged style. He's a winger. I think Bruins fans will really like. Brett Link going to Colorado College, another guy like a couple of defensemen I don't know a ton about. Cole Knuble. A lot of fans might remember that name, Mike Knuble, one of my first favorite
Yeah.
hockey players, not just because his name was Mike. I love Cole Knuble. He's not the biggest guy, but he's pretty rangy for a 5'11" forward, can play center. He's going to Notre Dame, USA Hockey Junior Player of the Year. I like his scoring touch and, willingness to get into the dirty areas around the net and in the offensive zone from what I've seen and read. And one of my draft diamonds this year, as I pick every year, it's a little different since they're so late, is Jason Shogabay. Had 96 points for War Road High School in Minnesota this past year. Is going to University of Minnesota Duluth. A guy that admittedly not the biggest, but he's got to put on some size and strength. And if he does, man, I think he can be a really good scorer, maybe on your second or third line someday. In his high school career, and Minnesota, no slouch for high school hockey, had 304 points in 120 high school games in the regular season. Just think about that.
Good. It's insane.
The kid is ridiculous. He's going to be a winger. Maybe the Bruins want a center, but I love Jason Shogabay. I'm fascinated to see who takes him because I think he could be an absolute diamond in the rough. I think there's absolutely tons of skill. He went to the same school as TJ Oshie, broke a lot of his records, if not all of them, with those numbers.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's probably pretty good case that he broke it.
Sounds like a school with some good pedigree. I love Jason Shogabay, maybe my favorite player in the class. Some other players I'm looking at are Kerry Terrence of Erie in the OHL, riser in some people's draft boards. I've heard good things about him. Emilio Jarventi, his brother Robbie was drafted a few years ago. He's a good skilled Finnish winger. I like Alex Ferrand from the OHL. Sudbury Wolves, can play center and wing. He's got some size, he's got a really good shot. Not the fastest, not the flashiest, but from what I've seen on YouTube, he's got a good shot and looks like a pretty decent player. Denver Barkey from London of the OHL, also a center. Matthew Mania from the Sudbury Wolves, the guy I've read a couple things about that I like. He's a right shot defenseman, also from the Sudbury Wolves. And my guy Chris Peters, I'll throw this guy in there as well because I heard him mention him. Is left wing Noel Nord, expected to be around at the time. The Bruins are picking a 92, a left winger from Brynäs in the Swedish Hockey League. Corey Pronman had his 7-round mock draft about 2 weeks ago, and I'll just read off a couple names from that because Corey Pronman's a pretty smart dude to look out for. At 92, we had the Bruins taking Rasmus Kumpalainen from Finland. He had Hudson Malinowski, a center. Kumpalainen is a center as well. Plays for Brooks in the AGHL, going to Providence at 124. Bogdan Kunyushkov, a right shot defenseman from Nizhny Novgorod from Russia at 188. Antoine Keller, a goalie from Geneva, Switzerland in the Swiss Junior League at 214. And Eli Sebastian is a center from the Green Bay Gamblers, a Northeastern commit at 220. So just some more names to watch out. And that's not it, folks. I'm giving you lots of mid-round names to look at here. For a friend of the program, for anybody who's been listening for a while, Spencer Facetta. One of my favorite things about Spencer as a friend is he loves finding these random people who I would never hear about otherwise.
Power to all these guys for doing this much homework for as late as the Bruins have picks. Like, damn the Bruins for making this difficult on everybody, but kudos to everyone that has, like I said, taken the time to put together this group of not no names, but like, you know what I mean? Like, it's gotta be tough.
No one knows more about random guys in my circle of friends. In the draft, in the mid rounds, late rounds, guys that could even go undrafted than Spencer. So shout out to him. He's got right shot defenseman Sam Court, also from Brooks. He's going to UNH, so maybe a guy they could like as a local proximity guy. Andover High, Minnesota. I saw that and I was like, holy crap! A kid from Andover High School is draft
fits the bill for the Bruins.
He played for Andover High and the Green Bay Gamblers, going to Colorado College next fall, not this upcoming fall. I'm not going to play the audio of the picks anymore because Michkov's gone. I'll just, do a little play-by-play as they make them. As Washington, who did I have them taking? Dvorsky. I wonder if I get another pick right here. He's got Vadim Moroz from who's a forward in the KHL. Anton Marashev, left shot defenseman, the MHL. Timur Mukhanov, a guy I know a little bit about. He's a KHL forward that seems to have this massive range on him in terms of where he'll go. But seems like a guy with some interesting upside. The Capitals go Ryan Leonard. I had him going 6. If I had him making it to Washington, I would have put him there. So that counts for something, I guess.
Oh, the guy going 20th in your mock draft kind of screws everything up.
Yeah. Yeah,
Or
it does screw things
projected
up.
20th, who went 3 or whatever it was, or 4,
Yeah.
wherever he ended up. No,
My-
6.
another
Sorry,
one of my
Arizona.
BC boys is going to Washington. But yeah, we'll see. We know my 20th pick is not going to be right either.
Mhm.
Pateras Boulans from Chicoutimi, the QJHL. Franciszek Dej, a forward from the Slovakia 2 League. Ryan Conmey played for Sioux City in the USHL. He's UNH commit. And Ty Hansen, also of Sioux City, a right shot defenseman. And finally, from Spencer's list, goalie, if they want to add another goalie for whatever reason, goalie Ruslan Kazayev from Belye Medvedi Chelyabinsk of the NHL. So a couple late round guys, a couple more late round guys to watch out for. We'll give props to Spencer if any of these guys end up being Bruins. That would be
Absolutely.
pretty cool.
Yep.
But back to the nitty gritty of what's actually going on in the NHL. Now, what could happen for the Bruins in the later rounds is I check Cap Friendly real quick to see if any more signings have trickled in. They haven't. So let's catch up on some stuff, shall we?
Sure.
Ryan Johansson went to Colorado at 50% retained for nothing because Alex Galchenyuk, who they got, would have been like his 9th team. We'll just hit free agency. If he can rebound somewhere, it's probably Colorado. I like the swing that they're taking there, as they're going to lose comfort and potentially Evan Rodriguez, and they traded Alex Newhook. They're definitely retooling that position. Can't really hate it. It's a guy that could probably score 40, 50 points if you get him back and you got him for free. Like, come on. Can't really hate that. Sean Dursey to Arizona for Montreal's 2024 second. Shrewd pickup for Arizona. They need some guys. They're, like I said last week, looking to take on guys that are good, but certain teams can't afford, not just salary dumps anymore. Good pickup for Arizona. He's got a tough arbitration case next summer, though, and a bigger qualifying offer. So I'm interested to see how they extend him if they can. Jordan Staal stays in Carolina for 4 years, $11.6 million. He's getting older, but he's such a good shutdown defensive second or third line center that's pretty reasonable money. It's a smart deal for Carolina. He's their captain. Elliot Friedman mentioned they kind of liked his profile when talking about Mark Scheifele in Boston. Something to monitor there, with him likely on the outs. Aiden Hill reportedly staying with Vegas for 2 years at around $4.9 million per. This hasn't even been confirmed yet, and it was like 3 or 4 days ago, so maybe they have some more work to do. But it looks like the Stanley Cup champion goaltender will be staying with the Stanley Cup champions.
That's smart.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 years too. If he keeps this up, he can cash out in a couple of years when the cap's much higher. Connor Ingram sticks around to keep the tandem together in Arizona. He stays for 3 years, $5.85 million, 1.95 per. He's a pretty underrated goalie, he's still young. I like that deal for them. The Hayes and D'Angelo trades fell through. Hayes eventually went on for a 2024 6 to 50% retained. D'Angelo trade, I think, has to wait. Like, it'll be like a calendar year since he was last traded, July 9th. So I think it has to wait till then for certain NHL rules, with, flipping a guy back to the team that originally had him. But yeah, we'll see what happens July 9th. Pierre Dubois, that saga is over.
Yep.
He is extended at Bo Horvat money, potentially Elias Lindholm money as well, maybe with Boston.
Like that.
Like that a lot. He's going to LA, where he won't request a trade, I imagine, anymore. He pretty much did that the second he got to Winnipeg. He goes to LA for Gabe Vilardi, who's very excited to be back in Canada. He needs a new deal. He had a really good season. He could be a big part of their future. Alex Iafallo, who just recently signed a 4-year extension with them, I think a summer or two ago. So he was a little shocked by the trade, but he goes to Winnipeg, where they have a lot of his old college teammates. So that's going to be cool for him. Former first rounder Rasmus Kupari and a 2024 second, as you remember, from Montreal that they got in the Dursey trade. They already flipped it to Winnipeg. Like this deal for both teams in the present. I like it more for Winnipeg a little bit, though, because we've yet to see how Dubois works out. And you can say the same for the Winnipeg players. But I don't know. I like the package they got. I think they could have got significantly less, to be honest with you, but they did pretty well. Alex Newhook to Montreal for Gianni Fairbrother, who's a prospect defenseman in picks 31 and 37. They then eventually this morning flipped pick 37 to Tampa Bay for Ross Colton, who they have to sign. Do you have any thoughts on any of these deals? Two of the bigger ones, Newhook or Dubois?
To be honest, not really. I know that's not great insight, but like they just
fair
saw those
enough, man.
come and go. I was like, all right, like obviously you kind of knew Dubois that was going to happen eventually because, like you said, the guy wanted out as soon as he got to Winnipeg. So that one was just kind of interesting to see where he would end up going once it kind of came down to LA. Kind of all the writing was on the wall there. It seemed like that's where he was going to end up.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair to say.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get another pick right with Tommy Vilander here to the mystery man Steve Yzerman in the Red Wings. Kenzie Blackwood, the odd man out in the crease, goes to San Jose, meaning his RFA rights for pick 164 in the draft tomorrow. Probably Capo Kakinen's backup if they keep him around. A couple young goalies, see who takes the starting job there. Igor Sharangovich goes to Calgary for not a lot, along with or the trade for Calgary was not a lot, I should say. Along with pick 80, that was originally Calgary's, that made its way back to Calgary in 4 trades over the past year for Tyler Toffoli, who already has interest in signing with New Jersey long term. This is a steal. Tyler Toffoli can score 30, 35 goals. You got him for a guy that's probably going to score 30 points or 30, 40 points in the third. It's a steal. Nate Danielson, who I'd going at 11, goes 9 to Detroit. Makes sense. Like I was saying, the buzz seemed to be like he was going to go a little bit closer to the top 10, and he makes it inside the top 10 to go to Detroit. I love Nate Danielson. If the Bruins had a first round pick, I'd be all over him as a Bruins target for a center of the future. I think he can be a second line center at the NHL level. Sharangovich followed it up by signing a 2-year bridge extension for $3.1 million a year. And just wanted to throw this in when we're talking about the Flames. Add Nikita Zadorov to the group of guys that could be on the way out. And
everybody wants out.
Things down. He's a big goofy dumbass though, so
but he's Big Z.
He's Big Z.
Yeah.
They also called Austin Zarnik Big Z. Austin Zarnik is 5'9".
His first name also begins with a C, doesn't it?
Yeah, but he's got Z.
I'm just saying, but again,
So
like at least Zadorov and like Zdeno, those would make sense.
Yeah.
They both begin with Z's.
Maybe Zach Benson can give me another pick right and go to St. Louis. I hope St. Louis has a terrible draft, so I hope they don't take Zach Benson. But Evgeny Dadonov, somewhat surprisingly, stays in Dallas, 2 years, $2.5 million per. That's a steal. I think Evgeny Dadonov can really be a solid middle six winger for them. Miles Wood has been given permission to talk to other teams. I've heard Vancouver has interest in him. I don't think the Bruins will do it this year, although a lot of Bruins fans love him. He's a BC guy as well. Shane Gostisbehere will hit the market as well, and the alarm's going on again.
Oh no. What do we do now? See, I don't hear the alarm. Like you get a quick trigger finger there because I don't ever hear the alarm when it goes off. Is it that loud and that? See, no, maybe. See, that's what stinks about the hockey segment is like this is more your cup of tea when it comes to giving
And
reactions
it's
to
already
these.
off. Are you fucking surprised?
Something's
This place would have to be burning down for me to go into that fucking storm outside right now and evacuate this place.
Oh, it'd have to be burning
Shit,
down
fucking
for
fire
anybody
alarm.
to show up to, apparently, because like you said, this is what now the 5th or 6th time it's gone off, and
like I don't even know. It could have happened all day while I was at work. I have no fucking idea. Back to hockey
wiring
though.
it's just got to be off.
Chris Johnson was on Sportsnet 590 today and talked about a Flyers and Senators trade. They could be working on a 3-team deal involving Alex DeBrincat and Travis Konechny. That would be pretty massive. So something to monitor there. Doesn't look like Ottawa will be getting back in the first round tonight unless something changes. Like we said earlier, Ross Colton for pick 37. Decent price to give up, but Tampa we know needs the picks. They don't have a pick didn't have a pick until the 6th and 7th rounds. Now they have an early second for a guy they weren't going to be able to keep. David Kampf, hilarious deal, stays with Toronto for some reason for 2.4 per year for 4 years. Way too much to pay for a 4th line center. That's honestly not all that great, but that's hilarious. I also, after that, saw a fake Elliot Friedman tweet out like an obscene Michael Bunting 8-year extension that I thought was real for a second. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Brad Treliving is burning this team down. But he actually can't even be on the draft floor until Calgary makes their pick at 16. So that's when he can join his colleagues in Toronto on the draft floor. Timo Meier, one we were wondering about for a little while, stays for $8.8 a year in New Jersey. They got Jesper Bratt locked up. They got Eric Howell locked up for 3.15 per for 3 years. And now they got Timo Meyer, 70.4 million for the next 8 years. He's very worth it. He's very good. I think he's gonna be a huge part of that team for a long time. Max Domi and Luke Glendening are hitting the open market. So Max Domi may be a Bertuzzi replacement. I think they should go after him absolutely if they do, because they got to improvise. And Luke Glendening is a great defensive bottom six center. So I imagine he'll have some interest. JT Comfort, as we mentioned earlier, is leaving Colorado, hitting the open market per the Avalanche Athletics. Peter Ball and Elliot Friedman later today confirmed it as well. Ryan Graves and Tomas Tatar joined the Devils, hitting the free agent market. Could always circle back, but looks like they might be playing elsewhere. Mike Babcock to Columbus is their new head coach. Is expected to be announced on Saturday for 2 years and $4 million per. Really dumb hire. Really hope he doesn't ruin Adam Fantilli's developmental years, but Adam Fantilli's a tough prick. I imagine they'll get along. Riley Smith, the price of being a Stanley Cup champion, sometimes you have to trade your misfits.
Thanks for the cup. Now get out.
Yeah. A 2024 third. He made $5 million. They clearly wanted to sign Barbashev. They did it like an hour later. They signed him for 5 and 5. So they replaced the money on the dot. Barbashev 6th round. He was massive. He was excellent. One of the best players in the playoffs with Eichel and Marchessault. The Lightning are trying to keep Alex Killorn and Tanner Jeannot. Good luck to them. They're trying to get Killorn to take a shorter term deal. Don't think he will. That's another Bruins guy they could go after. Or maybe they trade for the RFA rights, Tanner Jeannot. Just saying. A couple of names out to throw out there as well. Blake Wheeler looks more and more with time like he's heading towards a buyout. He makes $8.25 million. He's not that good anymore, Winnipeg.
Jesus,
just buy
I
him
didn't know he
out.
made that much money.
Just buy him out. Like, you have to pay for 2 years. Who gives a fuck? You idiots. Like, speed it up. Jeez, I hate when GMs are inept. You're not gonna be able to trade him. Like, nobody's gonna take him. I promise, unless Anaheim wants to take him for half. But yeah, Elliot Friedman isn't convinced it happens. Yaro Askarov, recent first round pick, goaltender of the Nashville Predators, name is out there. Michael Gallagher, who I believe is a local media member, said that he heard that pick 15, 24 and Askarov was not enough to move up with the Canadians to pick 5. The Preds called the Sharks about the 4th pick, and as we know now, that did not work because the Sharks selected Will Smith. And yeah, do you have any thoughts on any of this? As one of my golden boys, Dalibor Dvorsky, goes to one of the teams I hate the most, the St. Louis Blues, and that makes me sad.
You hate to see it.
I like Dvorsky. That sucks that he's played for such a shit organization. Your thoughts on any of this, whatever you would like to nitpick?
Nothing too crazy, just the fact that I was today years old when I learned that Blake Wheeler was way too overpaid at this point in his career. I'm with you. Like, I think when we both agree when it happened, the Babcock signing or hiring in Columbus was not going to be maybe the smartest move, but I think you were the one that said it. It's like he continues to be just the retread of all these coaches that don't work in the NHL or haven't worked recently. Like I said to you today, like the Riley Smith thing I found funny, as I said, like, you helped win a cup and now we don't need you anymore, so go pack your bags. Other than that, like the Killorn and Jeannot thing, I wouldn't hate either one of those guys for the Bruins. Like you said, might be something to explore, so that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. And then like we talked about obviously earlier with the Bruins specific stuff, like again, you have to find a way to figure the Bertuzzi situation out, because if you don't, like, and again, like I said earlier, you lose Hall for a couple of prospects like that. It has the potential to be absolutely disastrous, and then have Bruins fans turn right back the other way on Don Sweeney, obviously, who worked so well to kind of save his name an off season ago and a year ago. Now could be heading right back in the other direction if things start to kind of fall apart here. I know early in the off season hasn't even technically started yet, but there obviously are cause for concerns when it comes to that.
Yeah, agree on all fronts. I will say something before we switch to basketball a little bit. David Pagnotta said the Blues had a last minute call, but they're going to be selecting a 10. And he also said Canucks and Sabres GMs Alvin and Adams having a discussion on the floor, and now Alvin is on the phone. If I had to guess, that might be about one Ethan Bear they might trade, who is going to be recovering from surgery for the first 2 months of the season. But I believe I heard from a couple of places the Sabres do have interest in Ethan Bear, and they might not qualify him in Vancouver. So maybe they swing a deal to send him to Buffalo. I wonder if that's what that is about, as I put on my my attempt insider cap here, as I'm not, hearing this from anybody, but just speculating.
Mm-hmm.
But the Celtics, It feels like so long ago now, but
Shit, yeah, it does.
They completed the Kristaps Porzingis trade, of course, after the show last week,
Mhm.
in a somewhat surprising fashion, sending fan favorite Marcus Smart to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yep. Pulled a Cinderella story too, right before the strike of midnight having it happen. Thank God I stayed up and then couldn't sleep for an hour because I was just so awestruck. I don't know if it's the right word. Just, I guess, surprised. Like you said, Marcus Smart is interesting. And then obviously what happened afterwards with all the draft pick stuff, as we'll get into with the draft thing. But it makes sense. The Celtics made a quite a big push for Porzingis. We came to find out after the fact. There were reports that if Porzingis were to hit the open market of free agency, Danny Ainge and the Utah Jazz, as we know, Danny Ainge was high on Porzingis when he was coming out of the draft, wanted to trade up for him, couldn't do so with the Knicks when he was drafted there, obviously jump up ahead of the Knicks to take him. But there was a report that Danny Ainge and the Jazz were going to go after him. So I guess that kind of makes sense why the Celtics pivoted so quickly after the Brogdon deal fell apart. Kind of funny that it was the Clippers of all teams who just love employing guys that are always injured. They were the ones that kind of wanted to back out after Malcolm Brogdon's injury stuff. There was some murkiness on that. And the Celtics, of course, the report was they didn't want to wait any longer to come to grips with this. But like I said, if people saw the TikTok, my thoughts on it that I made, I think that Thursday or that Friday after this trade happened. Yeah, it sucks that you trade Marcus Smart, obviously a guy that was the heart and soul of the team. I think my frustration from it stemmed more from the fan base and the reactions that I saw across Twitter, where people were acting like this guy he died instead of being traded. Like the people that were like, how the Celtics gonna be able to go on with Marcus Smart when he was such a great guy here, like such a great this and that. It's like the guy's just playing for another team. He didn't pass away. Everything's okay. Like you will get over Marcus Smart not being here. People that were saying that, this loss, I saw one person say this loss hurts more than the finals loss that Golden State did a couple years ago. I'm like, all right, you need
really got some dramatic.
You need to
it, but
yeah, exactly. Like I said, it hurts. Like as it happened too, again, right before the strike of midnight, you didn't hear any sort of rumors about Marcus Smart being traded. And then it kind of blindsides you where you're like, holy crap, now all the ramifications of, okay, now you're having a culture change. It seems like now I think it is positive with Marcus Smart gone. Obviously, there were the rumors and stuff that he thought, he was the top dog in the room because he had been here the longest and was the oldest, stuff like that. Now this move forces Tatum and Brown, but more so Tatum because it's his team, into more of a leadership role, which I think is going to be a good thing. Like we've talked about it before. We've seen at times these young guys need to grow up, need to maybe, get a set on them and toughen up. I think this is a good upcoming year to test that now that these guys are going to be the leaders. And then two, anyone that always talked about, the Celtics have a big three with, Tatum, Brown, Smart. Not really. They had a core three. Those were their three main guys. Now Smart's gone. You have a legit big three in Porzingis who can come in and give you 20 plus points as he did last year to back up Brown and Tatum, which is good too. I think it obviously helps. You saw at the end of the season, Rob Williams, you love his lobs, but he's not a huge offensive threat for a big man. Al Horford, getting up there with age. We love Al Horford, but he kind of fell off towards the end of the season, got tired. Again, that comes with his age. Porzingis gives you a big man that can score in the front court, can play multiple positions with, the uniqueness that he has. So again, it does stink to trade Marcus Smart, but I think it's a deal that ends up working out for, everybody involved. The Celtics obviously get Porzingis, who's going to help them with, scoring, defense, stuff like that at the rim. Memphis gets a great leader in Marcus Smart, a team that is looked at as maybe a little too childish. I think he'll probably come in, step in and be a good leader for them. Obviously a good mentor for John Morant when he comes back off of his suspension. Washington, they get some pieces. Tyus Jones is a nice little piece there. Gallinari is going to get bought out, it seems like. Don't really know what's going to happen with Muscala, but Washington's at where they are right now. So, it's not really a big thing for them. I don't hate the deal. I'm excited to see what you get in Porzingis. I think obviously it opens up a bigger role for Derek White too. Anybody who saw the playoffs last year and how he played down the stretch, I don't think you should be upset by that because I think he can step into that Marcus Smart role and be perfectly fine. So like I said, yeah, it stinks trading Marcus Smart, but it's a deal that I like. And I think it's a deal you had to make because this core has run its course. Like you had to change something. You had to have some sort of culture shift or shock, however you want to describe it. I'm fine with it being Marcus Smart. He was the easiest guy out of the big three or core three to move. You weren't going to move Brown. You weren't going to move Tatum. Smart's the guy that has to, bite the bullet in a sense. And it stinks, but I think it was necessary.
Yeah, just for the draft crowd or anybody who's watching and unable to watch the draft this time, Tom Wielander to Vancouver at 11. Also, quick point on that, I wonder if Buffalo is trying to move up from 13 to 11. That could also be possible. Back to Marcus Smart. At first, I thought like this happened, must have happened really suddenly if this was the pivot. But the more and more I think about it, it probably wasn't the case. Maybe a little bit, but more likely than not, like with a guy like Marcus Smart, you had this in the back of your mind probably as a backup plan, or maybe another separate move.
Yeah, I was going to say that after you finished up. I don't want to cut you off, but it's good that you bring that up, because that, I think a lot of people had that same reaction, that kind of that knee jerk or the head jerk of, well, that was kind of quick that the Celtics were willing to trade or move Marcus Smart. That led some people to speculate, okay, maybe after this deal came through, maybe Smart was going out in a separate deal for something else that you may or may not have needed. So I think that was definitely an interesting point of it too.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what I talked about last week too. Getting Porzingis just gives you options with your bigs. You know, Horford's older. Williams' injury troubles are unpredictable, even though they're sometimes predictable. But, you know, you never when it is going to flare up sometimes. You know, it sucks to trade Smart and a guy who's won Defensive Player of the Year for you. But if they wanted that culture shock, this is a good guy to move.
Definitely got it. Absolutely.
It sucks. It made a lot of people mad, but I don't think this is the end for the Celtics. I think they can recover from this. And before I pass too much judgment, I'm going to wait to see how the product works, because
absolutely.
I think Derek White can be fine. If he has to start the majority of games next year and play a lot more minutes, from what he showed in the playoffs especially, I think Derek White can be fine. I think they can add another piece. I hope they add another point guard, just for, you know, comfortability's sake and depth's sake, but I think they'll be okay. It sucks. I'm going to miss Smart too. Like, maybe my favorite Celtics moment ever was Marcus Smart just absolutely owning James Harden with those offensive fouls. That's just an all-time Celtics moment, period, in the 21st century. At least, you know, they're a very historic franchises, won tons of fucking championships, but it does suck. It does, but it's not all gloomy. This team's still very good. They're motivated. They have something, you know, to be pissed off about and build on with the loss of the Heat. They'll be okay.
Yeah, I think so. And then the Derek White thing too, like as you mentioned, obviously Marcus Smart's a former Defensive Player of the Year. There are people that were doubting, you know, if Derek White can jump into that role. Which guard is coming off the all defensive? If people want to read into it, like it is, you know, toss up if you believe this stuff, or, you know, put any sort of emphasis on this or not. But Derek White is coming off of the all defensive nod. Marcus Smart did not. So I think Derek White is very capable of filling any shoes that Marcus Smart, you know, big or not, depending on how you look at him, Derek White's going to be fine. Like you said, I think the move is probably now to go get an actual point guard. We'll get into maybe who that may or may not have been a little later. Or one guy that I thought or was scared that it might be, that thankfully has moved on. So I'm glad they're not going to go in a certain direction with a veteran point guard. Other stuff on Porzingis, really quick, because I saw some people that were maybe concerned that you're giving up a lot, quote unquote, for 1 year of Porzingis. The belief now, this is from Mark Stein a couple of days ago, tweeted out saying, quote, the Celtics are strongly expected to give Porzingis a 2-year extension this offseason. And the belief, the article I was reading, the extension will be worth up to $77 million and be offered as soon as it can be, sometime around the first week of July. So that'll be something to look forward to as well. And then too, I didn't even mention, which I think even if you didn't get Porzingis, the fact that you were able to get, well, at the time was 2 first-round picks for Marcus Smart. Like, that's a pretty decent haul for Marcus Smart. You know, obviously was a former first-round pick. You can get 2 of them. Yes, one of them is Golden State's. That may or may not be the best pick in the world. But like I said, at the time you were able to get 2 first-round picks. With how the draft turned out, and with, you know, Bill Belichick apparently taking over as the Celtics draft duties Thursday night, you got a decent haul of second picks for trading Marcus Smart, in case people missed it. Celtics traded down 4 times. They originally had pick 25 with that Marcus Smart trade. That turned into the 31st pick from Detroit and 2 future seconds. Then another trade, the Celtics traded the 31st pick to Charlotte, which turned into picks 34 and 39. The third trade of the night took pick 34 to Sacramento and turned that into the 38th pick and a future second-round pick. And then the final trade of the night was pick 39, was traded to Atlanta for a future second-round pick. So the Celtics ended up with 4 future second-round picks and a first-round pick ultimately for Marcus Smart and Kristaps Porzingis. So again, trade sucks from, you know, depending on how you look at Marcus Smart, if you're really high on him, but you were able to get a decent haul for a guy that I think could maybe run his course here. And then with the draft pick, you end up taking Arkansas forward Jordan Walsh, who, if you look into his draft profile, you may have traded Marcus Smart for Marcus Smart, or a Marcus Smart type at least. Yeah, just looking at
I haven't heard them mention in the same name. Your guy Daniil Butt just went to or Boot just went to his real name just went to Arizona. They're taking
stick with
double
Butt.
Russians.
Ooh, interesting.
Good luck to them getting them to come over. It's a little hard.
Boot's
these
a
days.
weird Russian name. I feel I wouldn't have pinned him for Russian out of the gate.
He will not make it to the New York Rangers. Had him at 23.
But yeah, I found just a little bit because again, we're not going to dive too much into draft stuff for a guy that was drafted in the late second round. The Ringer draft guide on Jordan Walsh's profile, some of his positives. Like I said, very Marcus Smart sounding. He's an explosive athlete with a relentless approach and good instincts. He comes up with 50-50 balls by diving on the floor. He takes charges. He flies around, makes second and third efforts on single possessions. He's everywhere. Very Marcus Smart-esque. Other positives, versatile defender with size, strength, and length to defend across perimeter positions. He possesses excellent fundamentals, fighting through screens for a player of his age. Though his best value comes from his switching scheme. He doesn't back down from a battle against a big either. Very Marcus Smart-esque. And then some other stuff. The negatives, a couple of the knocks on him. His make or break skill is shooting. Unless he starts hitting more shots with great regularity, he'll cap out as a solid contributor, but not much else. And then also gets out of control at times on drives to the basket, leading to avoidable turnovers. And on defense, sometimes gets a little too antsy, leading to silly fouls. So, like I said, you traded Marcus Smart out. Maybe you brought a Marcus Smart type in. A lot of people I saw kind of said that this is how he play. He's a very physical guy on defense. Is the perfect like motor guy that the Celtics tend to like, guy that'll hustle for every play, dive for every loose ball, as I said. Again, stats aren't great. Only a 27.8 3-point shooter in college in the 36 games he played for Arkansas as a freshman. Did start 22 of them. Had a pretty good March Madness or, helping Arkansas, win a couple of games in the March Madness tournament, averaged 7.1 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, over a steal per game, and just under an assist, while also shooting 43.3% from the field. So he's going to be a work in progress guy. Most late second round picks or mid second round picks are. I don't hate the pick. He's more wing depth. Especially if you lose a guy like Grant Williams, he could maybe similar play style to him too, it seems like. And of course, a guy that struggled out of the gate shooting threes out of college, but molded into a pretty decent 3-point shooter. Got to think maybe Walsh falls in a guy like that's footsteps. He's already talked about, wanting to learn from Al Horford, wanting to get to Boston. I think his quote was, the Celtics fans like guys more that dive for loose balls than either win championships or something like that. So just kind of obviously playing into that fast and, aggressive play style that he has, that I think makes a guy like Marcus Smart and others fan favorites, maybe Walsh will follow in their footsteps as well.
Yeah. And if unless somebody that has this maybe concerns with certain things and a lot of talent and falls in the second round, you're kind of, I feel like, just looking for guys with intangibles.
Exactly.
Second round the NBA draft. Sounds like he's the guy that does. Sounds like he could at the very least be a good defender off the bench with some snarl. So I have no qualms. Works for me. You're going for what you want. You have specific, you say that for any pick, but especially in the second round, you're not getting a superstar most likely. You're looking for a guy who can play a specific role or roles. And I think Jordan Walsh, there's some things to like there. So
absolutely. Worst comes to worst, he's a guy that maybe spends the majority of the year in Maine, works on a couple of things, gets that 3-point shooting down. Maybe it's worth noting too that I had here in the outline. At one point, he was looked at a 5-star top 25 recruit out of high school. So there was a decent amount of hype for him, depending on how much reading into that stuff for the more draft oriented and draft centric people that may or may not be listening. But again, like you said, sometimes you do hit home runs in the second round. Sometimes you get a multi MVP, NBA champion winner during a Taco Bell commercial, and that works out really well for teams like Denver got with Nikola Jokic. I'm not saying obviously this guy is Jokic level, but maybe the Celtics will strike gold here and get a solid little piece down the line.
Yeah, I think it's possible. Sure.
Some of the other stuff too, speaking of Grant Williams, there's been some stuff about him with the acquisition of Porzingis. Some believe it may be hard to keep Grant Williams on this team, depending on who you ask. But Grant did have some interesting comments. There was a Fanatics fan event in Foxborough the other day that a lot of Boston sports, I saw Celtics players, Patriots players were there doing some media stuff. He had some comments about his future. The first one saying, quote, "Brad and those guys, if they decide to keep me and bring me back, of course, I'm going to come back and be excited and happy and be ready to play for the Celtics. If something else happens, I'll have to transition." This was from Gary Washburn of the Globe. He said, quote, "Grant Williams said there is still a chance to return to the Celtics." Quote, "Absolutely. It's just a decision of whether or not it's needed. Said a deal with the new CBA definitely changes the cap numbers. And Adam Himmelsbach also had a tweet saying it's quite likely that Grant Williams will remain in Boston next year. This was from last week, of course. They've received inquiries about a sign and trade options, but bearing a massive offer sheet, it remains likely that the Celtics will match what Grant is offered or will re-sign him outright. Now, there is some stuff I saw today. Dallas may or may not use one of their exemptions on him, which I think the Celtics can match as well. So even with the Porzingis stuff, it may seem like Grant Williams might stick around here, which, you know, say what you will about Grant Williams. I don't hate it. He'd be more depth, of course, and a guy that obviously knows the system, plays pretty well in it at times. Can't say I'd hate it if they bring back Grant Williams. It is going to be interesting, though, to see with the, the front court spots piling up, what his role kind of is if he is to be brought back. Are you still, I really can't remember where your spot is. Are you on board of letting Grant Williams walk, or what's your kind of situation with him moving forward?
I'm on board with a sign and trade, and I don't want to pay him that big number. I don't want to pay him 18 to 20 that he could probably get.
I don't know if he's going to get that, though, because you haven't heard anything of.
I didn't like the whole Jimmy Butler thing he did too.
Fair enough. You're not alone in that.
So I'd be okay with it. But if they keep him at the right dollar, like, I'm not really going to complain. He's hit or miss, but when he's on, he's pretty good.
Yep.
So, like, it's not like he's some complete dumpster fire. So I can't really get too mad. But yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm at with Grant.
Fair enough. The thing too to keep in mind, obviously, is
to Buffalo. God damn it. Buffalo gets a good pick. That's another really good prospect in the division. Zach Benson, who I had going number 10 to St. Louis to Buffalo. Like I said, though, at this point, probably best player available. That's what Buffalo should have done.
Absolutely. Works for me. The other thing too, really quick on the Grant Williams stuff, obviously with Gallinari gone, with Muscala gone, little thin with your depth. So again, if you bring him back, if you can figure out how to make that work cap wise, wouldn't be the worst thing on the planet. Just some other kind of NBA notes too, some of the bigger moves that have occurred since the last show that I thought we could go ahead.
Thing to mention, they drafted his teammate in WHL, Matthew Savoy, in the first round last year. So teammates reunited.
Getting the band back together.
Throw out there for anybody. Fun fact you didn't know.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, some of the NBA news and notes. Like I said, there was a certain point guard I did not want the Celtics to go after. Thought they maybe could if Washington were to buy him out. Instead, Washington traded him for the second time this offseason. Chris Paul, surprisingly going to the Golden State Warriors. The full trade, it was the Warriors get Chris Paul. Washington receives a decent little haul. They get Jordan Poole, 1 year removed from a 4-year, $140 million extension with Golden State, which is kind of funny. They bow out 1 year after that happens. Prospect Ryan Rollins, who was drafted, I believe, this year, 2027 second round pick and a 2023 first round pick that is protected. Like I said, my big thing is I was terrified that Washington was going to buy him out, and then he ends up on the Celtics on a cheap deal after they trade Marcus Smart, need a point guard. That's not going to happen. He ends up in Golden State, which is kind of interesting to see how that dynamic of him, Clay, and Steph's going to work out, all playing similar positions. But any thoughts on Chris Paul now a Golden State Warrior, or Jordan Poole as a Washington Wizard?
I was surprised to see them both in the same deal because that felt pretty lopsided. But I mean, it's 2030, so who gives a shit right now? But they're getting it first, they're getting a second, and whoever Ryan Rollins is, gotta be honest, don't know who he is. It's a decent piece for Washington too. I mean, I guess they really like, for Golden State's purposes, they really like him as a fit with Steph and Clay, as they are losing Draymond Green. So doing a little retool in that starting lineup and adding Chris Paul, see if it works. I mean, if he can't win in Golden State, I know Golden State isn't going to be like a slam dunk to win the championship every year, but they can do it. So maybe this is finally the team that gets Chris Paul that elusive championship at age 38, 39.
Absolutely. If he starts too, I don't know what they obviously haven't said what his role is going to be. But that could be a very small starting lineup if you're going to run him, Steph, and Clay all. Like, you got to think Clay ends up playing the small forward spot. You're not a small guy by any means, Klay Thompson, but definitely could have bigger options there. It'd be interesting to see, like I said, how that trio ends up working out there. And like you said, if Chris Paul could get that elusive first championship, if Golden State goes on another one of their crazy runs. Another trade that happened, one guy whose name has come up in a ton of trade rumors over the years, finally gets dealt. Miles Turner is like the lone surviving guy of the trade rumors. With John Collins and Marcus Smart. Funny that both Collins and Smart get moved in the same offseason. This was a weird one, but it makes sense for the cap standpoint, money standpoint. John Collins goes to Utah. Atlanta gets back Rudy Gay, who I completely forgot was even in the NBA anymore. I thought he either was a free agent or retired a year or two ago, and then a future second round pick. Like I said, it looks weird on paper, but does have some CBA implications with the new CBA coming down the pipe. Atlanta unloads the remaining 3 years and $78 million of Collins' remaining contract, and opens up a massive $25.3 million trade exception, which is the largest in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, I can't believe it actually happened. When I saw it, I was like, oh my God, the Celtics are going to do it. Nope.
Nope. It is Utah. Well, it makes sense too that Utah does it. Danny Ainge, the guy that liked Collins when he was here, makes sense that he is the guy that ends up getting him, and that's a nice piece to pair with Lauri Markkanen and guys out there in Utah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then DeAndre Ayton, whose name has come up a couple times, really has had a weird offseason so far. Is he going? Is he not? It is apparently he is reportedly going to stay put in Phoenix. Chris Haynes had this saying, quote, "For the Phoenix Suns are moving forward with their plan to keep DeAndre Ayton to play alongside Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal." League sources tell NBA on TNT and Bleacher Report. Haynes also had this tweet saying, quote, "The Suns believe Ayton's value to the franchise is at an all-time high with the additions of Beal and Durant. Phoenix wants to see them play together," which again makes sense. You want to have all your stars together to see how they work well. I don't know if I agree with him that his value is at an all-time high with how bad he looked at times in the playoffs last year. So maybe that's why they couldn't move him, as they couldn't find a trade partner. But that's kind of tough to think of with, how high of a pick DeAndre Ayton was, how high that ceiling could be. Keeping him, though, might have some roster construction problems, though, as Chris Haynes also had this tweet saying the Phoenix Suns will host free agent workout on Wednesday, featuring notable Stanley Johnson and Jabari Parker, which is interesting. Like, Jabari Parker still kicking around the NBA, but that kind of shows the spot the Phoenix Suns are in right now, where you don't have a ton of cap space, don't have a ton of money to shell out. So you're going to try to maybe employ Jabari Parker and the likes of Stanley Johnson. So interesting to see. Any thoughts on that? As we've talked about DeAndre in the last couple of shows, could he go? Could he not?
No, the guy just seems like a head case to me. To be honest.
I'm right there with you. Like, again, one of those guys that plays smaller than he is. We sort of talked about that in last week's episode, and maybe the one before too, that like the guy is kind of soft for a guy his caliber and the skill set that he has. The final piece of information from the NBA kind of relates to the Celtics a little bit. It is Danilo Gallinari, as I mentioned. He's going to be bought out by Washington. That was according to Yahoo Sports' Jake Fisher. Unfortunately, like I joked about with you, the Celtics cannot re-sign him once he hits the open market due to the CBA rules. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald had this tweet out today, which kind of stinks, saying that the Miami Heat are a potential destination for Danilo Gallinari. So like I said, that sucks. I already saw somebody on Twitter say like, "Oh, great, the Heat are going to get Gallinari, going to bounce back here, and he's going to be good for them," which would stink, of course. And then it obviously sucks too that the CBA does not allow the Celtics to re-sign a guy they traded a couple days ago. I thought that would have been kind of funny if that's how they filled out the bench, bring in Gallinari on a 1-year cheap deal, type of prove it thing.
Yeah, it stinks. The dream of our Italian stallion is dead. Boston.
Yep.
We never got to see him.
No. But like I said, I think the upgrade of
Poor guy,
Porzingis.
Didn't he grow up a Celtics fan?
Yeah, he was a childhood. There's a picture on Twitter, I think, of him in a Celtics uniform as a kid, and like I said, which kind of stinks. But again, I will take the upgrade of Porzingis. Yes, there are injury concerns there. Yes, I do not like the fact that he's going to play for Team Latvia in the FIBA tournament or whatever that is. I think maybe the same tournament that Gallinari hurt himself last year in. So something to keep an eye on. If I was the Celtics, I would have found any way, shape, or form to figure out a way to not have Porzingis do that. But the guy's going to go play for his country, so I guess you can't really stop him from doing that. But definitely cross your fingers, say some prayers that he's able to come out of that healthy and able to perform for the Celtics this year. Because like I said, I am excited to see what this team looks like now, post Marcus Smart, and officially in the Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown led Celtics, to see where they go from here.
Yeah, I'm with you. It sucks.
All right.
I really wish Gallinari could have worked out, but
I do too.
alas.
Yep.
To wrap up the show, we have some Patriots news and Red Sox. Unfortunately, sad Patriots news to start, and shocking Patriots news. Probably around like 5:30 yesterday, maybe a little earlier. It was announced that Ryan Mallett passed away. Former Patriots quarterback, played for the Texans and maybe a couple other teams. Passed away at 35 yesterday from drowning. Just a horrifying way to die. I haven't seen any other further details besides that, but he's no longer with us at 35. A lot of recent Patriots, like guys like Gronk and Edelman and some of the big guys like that. I forget who else. Will Middlebrooks was really good friends with him. Both they had some overlap with the time Middlebrooks was with the Red Sox, Mallett was with the Patriots. sounds like he touched a lot of people's lives, was a really good guy to be around. There's an awesome video. I think it was Gerard Mayo's kids of him hanging out with them at a practice back in the day in like 2013, maybe. Just a tragedy, man. Like 35 years old, a lot of life ahead of him. He's coaching high school football. Just out of nowhere, he's no longer with us, and drowning is just such a frightening way to go. Like,
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. Yeah. Yep.
just wanted to express our sympathies and condolences to friends and family, and the Patriots community, and everyone he knew and loved. It was a blindside.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one of those things. You open up Twitter, you look at it, you're like, "There's no that can't be right." Like, kind of one of those things where you just don't. I mean, obviously, with a lot of deaths, that's the kind of the gut reaction you have is like, "There's no way." And then again, you read into the details of it, how young he was, how it happened. It's like it's like you said, an awful way to go. Obviously, you wouldn't, not wish that on anyone. Like, obviously, I don't want to like reiterate the same things you said, pretty much the same feelings that you had, and say the same things that you did. Like, obviously, people know that. Obviously, like you said, it's a horrible situation, and obviously, like you said, you wish for the best for his family moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. But other Patriots news: Devontae Parker was re-signed, kind of out of nowhere.
As I told you, I saw the wide receiver DE. Quick look at my phone at dinner and wanted to jump out of the table, or out of my seat at the table, and like, yeah, the Patriots got DeAndre Hopkins, and you look, it's like, oh. Okay, like, all right, I don't hate that move, but it's definitely not the one that I was expecting and definitely wanted them to do. But there are some positives from it. It doesn't completely nix the deal that could be for Hopkins down the line, according to some reports.
Yeah, and that's huge because that was my first concern, that it might affect cap space currently, like in a big way, but it doesn't seem like it will.
It opened up more, I think, didn't it? Yeah.
It created close to $4 million in cap space, $3.7 million in cap dollars. Gives you more pressure. That's really my takeaway. Like, and it also tells you that Kendrick Bourne is probably the odd man out.
Yeah, that was the big takeaway, I think, from a decent amount of people. I saw
Which
Doug
sucks,
Hyde had that tweet too. Yeah, I mean, we talked about that before, which if you were to bring in Hopkins, which guy would go? If you'd listened to Devontae Parker a couple weeks ago when he was asked the question, maybe you would have thought it was going to be him, with how, not disdain, but there was some angst towards the answers that he gave, or the questions that were asked of him, which again makes sense. Two outside receivers play the same position, do the same things on the field. Some concerns there, but yeah, I'm with you. Like, it stinks. Kendrick Bourne's probably going to be the odd man out, but if you can upgrade Bourne with DeAndre Hopkins, I think that's a no-brainer type of thing. And it gives, I saw some tweets too that said it kind of gives Devontae Parker some clarity and lets him kind of maybe breathe a sigh of relief a little bit, to not have that cloud hanging over his head of, if I don't come out and have a good camp, are they going to replace me with Hopkins? What's my future going to be like here? Obviously going into a contract year. In typical Patriots fashions, if people missed it, 3-year contract worth up to $33 million on a deal that also includes $14 million in guarantees and per game roster bonuses. That was from Ian Rappaport. And like I said, or like you said, rather, does not completely close the door on Hopkins. This was from around the NFL. Tweet said, quote, Devontae Parker's new deal with the Patriots does nothing to diminish New England's optimism of adding DeAndre Hopkins, per Ian Rappaport. So there is, like we said, that door is still very much open. And depending on who you ask, who you listen to, maybe the Patriots are the leading team in DeAndre Hopkins. There's been some conflicting reports this week. This is from Tuesday. Brad Stainbrook had a tweet saying, while the New England Patriots sound like the leaders, the Cleveland Browns and the Carolina Panthers are still lurking on DeAndre Hopkins, per Sal Palantino on ESPN Radio. Ian Rappaport was on the Pat McAfee show on Tuesday, where he said the Patriots are very much in it. The Patriots have the most smoke, probably down to just the Patriots and the Titans, barring a change. Seems to be mutual interest from both Hopkins and the Patriots. He probably won't sign, though, until before camp. So again, there is some optimism. As you mentioned, if I'm the Patriots, like, what is taking so long with this deal? Get it done. As I said to my dad tonight at dinner, you get him. You probably get Dalvin Cook too, who is retweeting things about the Patriots, or you're retweeting clips about him being a good fit there. I saw some conflicting things today that said apparently declined a visit to the Dolphins, but that I think was proven wrong. He did decline one trip to one team, but the tweet I saw, it didn't say who it was. Also hasn't taken, obviously, a visit with the Patriots or the Jets, were the two other teams as well. So there's a lot on the line for the Patriots right now. And like we talked about, re-upping Devontae Parker is just step one. It seems like obviously you have still a decent amount of cap space to get DeAndre Hopkins. What are you waiting for? If there's a mutual interest, you still need a receiver with the injuries you have. Even if you didn't need a receiver, it'd be dumb, obviously, not to bring this guy in.
Yeah.
What are we waiting for here?
Yeah, to keep up with the tracker real quick before we get to football, back to football. Braden Yeager, 14 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Matthew Wood, 1 pick off, had him going 16. He goes 15 to the Predators. They wanted to add size, and they did. Big guy. Just to keep up with the tracker, as I said I would. DeAndre Hopkins, oh my God, the alarm.
Damn it, stupid fucking alarm. So then I guess on that, then I'll just go quickly to just my thoughts on the Dalvin Cook stuff. Let you regroup and hopefully that alarm goes off as quick as it does. The stuff with Cook I was referring to last Saturday, Pat McAfee put out a tweet and a clip from his show with Michael Lombardi saying that he believes that Dalvin Cook would be a better fit for the Patriots than DeAndre Hopkins. Actually was the conversation. He said they also need a back. And of course, what caught people's attention was the fact that Dalvin Cook himself retweeted this, maybe indicating that he too thinks he would be a good fit for the Patriots. But then maybe some cold water was thrown on that, as he also quote tweeted a clip of Tyler Conklin saying that there's room on the Jets if he wants to come help them, quote unquote, win a Super Bowl, where Dalvin Cook used the little 100 emojis that they have. So some conflicting things there. And then, of course, Patriots running back James White, for the people that missed it. He had other thoughts on Cook to the Patriots due to Ramondre Stevenson's presence, saying, quote, Bill loves that guy. Talking, of course, about Stevenson. So he just has to capitalize on the opportunity. While he also added he'd be surprised if Cook signed with the Patriots. Of course, Dalvin Cook is coming off a year where he rushed for over 1,000 yards for the 4th straight year in his career, 8 touchdowns, 69 yards per game. So a nice number there. Also had 39 receptions, 56 targets, 295 yards in the air, and 2 touchdowns. Like I said, 4th straight year of 1,000+ yards rushing and 4 straight Pro Bowl selections. If the Patriots can make it work, I wouldn't hate Dalvin Cook being here. I'm sure if Mike could talk and not have the microphone, the thing going off in the background, he would probably agree as well. Any movement on that? Still going off the alarm? I don't know if you're texting me while I was trying to talk or not. Not looking good. Jesus Christ, that's not good. So I guess in that case, then I'll move on to Red Sox. I'll give one last thought to you. Shake your head, yes or no. Are you in on Dalvin Cook, for the people that may or may not be watching?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there we go. Good. You're back.
It's going to come on in like 20 minutes again. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. This is
No,
going to happen all night.
That's going to be a pain in the ass. Absolutely. Like, I can't even imagine. You think that's something they would like fix? My phone is blowing up here with this stupid group chat. A lot of problems right now. But before, if you have to go again, any other quick closing thoughts on Dalvin Cook, or I'll transition to just because it was mainly my Red Sox thing. If we were going to do it,
I just hope they sign both of them. That's where I'm at.
Fair enough. I think you echo the same thoughts that a lot of Patriots fans and people around the team probably think too. If you are to lose your ability to talk again, before I deep dive into my thoughts with the Red Sox, do you have any thoughts on this baseball team right now? Like I said, before I jump into mine and kind of to end the show on.
They are what we thought they were. They're bad. They should sell, and they should not have any hopes of making a playoff run because they are not good enough.
I agree with some of those things you said. I agree that they should not have any hopes of making the playoffs. But I am, as I said last week, I think, or a week before, whenever we talked about the Red Sox, I am terrified that this team thinks they are good enough to make a playoff run, and that they are good enough to compete for a championship, and that they will buy or fall into the same trap they fell into last year of buying and selling at the trade deadline, which again is the stupidest, the dumbest way you can approach the trade deadline. You need to be on one side of the fence or the other. And again, the rest of the league is not helping them because the Red Sox are still 3 games out of a wild card spot. The rest of the league is still as average and mediocre as the Red Sox are. They need to look in the mirror. They are the definition of a mid-baseball team. They are at the halfway point officially tonight, 81st game of the year. They are 40-40. They are 21-19 at home. They are 19-21 on the road. In the months of March and April, of course, they played 1 game in March. They were 15-14. The month of May, they were 13-13. The month of June, they are 12-13. They are an average baseball team. They need to wake up and realize that. My thought process is that's where I'm at. I'm no longer going to get too high about this team. I'm no longer going to get too low about this team because it's just what they are. This is what they wanted to be, a mediocre, middling baseball team where if they got lucky and had some things go right for them, they might be in a playoff race like they are right now. They might have, these guys break out, some of their young guys, and some of their veterans might have bounce back years, like a James Paxton, like a Chris Sale was before he was going, got on the injured list. By your reaction, I think
No.
Oh.
Another guy goes one pick before this time. I had Samuel Hanzik going 17 to the Red Wings. He goes 16 to the Flames. Back to back, one picks off. So there's the draft tracker, Joe.
That does suck.
If you see me react like that again, it's probably because the fire alarm is going back.
Okay, that's what I wondered. I'm like, I
did text my landlord though. I hope somebody texted her or him. It's a husband and wife. They both kind of do it together. I hope somebody had texted them before, because I imagine it's been happening on and off all day.
Yeah, nothing's changed from
Which
this
is
morning, like
sick.
you said, and it's still going on. Like that's something that needs to be looked at.
It's fucking dope, dude. It's the best.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I said, like I said it when it happened, that little win streak they went on a couple last week, I think it was a fake win streak. Like they can only seem to beat the Yankees for some reason, who the Yankees may be worse off than the Red Sox. It's kind of funny that whole team looks like it's just Aaron Judge, which is kind of pathetic. But the Yankees, they're probably gonna get healthier and they'll probably make me eat my words. The one thing I will get low on with this Red Sox team and get pissed off with is their idiot first baseman and Tristan Casas, who again, I will to some degree agree with that. He's a rookie. There's going to be some growing pains, and I'm not going to knock on him offensively too much because he has been better offensively. He's made strides there. What I will knock on though, and what has just completely aggravated me with him, and again, I'm not going to read into the growing pains, and he's young and doesn't have a lot of experience at the position, which I got into a fight with on a guy on Twitter this week. Is just the stupidity and the lack of baseball knowledge and the mental lapses that he has at first base, because it's costing this team games. Like maybe you wouldn't be a 500 team or, exactly a 500 team. You might be a game or two over. If the guy could just do the simple things at the first base position. Over the weekend, you have the botched ground ball in Saturday's walk-off against Chicago, where again, he backs up for a baseball. Like you played Little League as a kid, I'm assuming, right? Growing up.
Yeah.
Were you ever, if you can remember, were you ever taught fielding a ground ball to back up on it?
What was that?
Like when you were growing up playing baseball, like I'm sure you had a coach, like obviously you went through like infield practice and were taught how to field ground balls and how to play the position. Did you ever have a coach tell you to back up on a ground ball? If you could remember back.
Yeah.
You had a coach tell you to back up on a baseball?
Yeah. I mean, at some point, yeah.
Oh, that's bad coaching then. You're always supposed to, the baseball people that are listening will know, you're always supposed to attack a baseball. Like you're never supposed to back up and.
I had some shitty assistant coaches someday that probably told me.
Clearly, that didn't know.
Probably told me that, I imagine.
Uh-huh.
I didn't play baseball for very long. And,
no, but I'm just saying, like, my whole point that I was going to get into is like the stuff that he's doing, the backing up on ground balls. Then on Sunday, he has a play where Andrew Benintendi, he didn't score, thankfully, so that didn't cost the Red Sox a run, but he gets Benintendi into a rundown situation, which again, anybody who knows the basics of baseball, you're never supposed to run the guy to the base you're trying to prevent him to go to. You're supposed to try to run him back to second base like Benintendi was going to. Instead, Casas looks to second base as Benintendi's going to third. He gets to third base safely without really any sort of throw. On that play too, Casas also could have thrown the ball home and probably got the guy out at home. But again, the baseball sense with him is just not there. He's making mistakes that, like I said, or tried alluding to, that you get taught in Little League not to do. So like the baseball sense, like I said, is just maddening with him. And then listening to him talk about some stuff, some of the questions he's been asked recently, some of his answers he's given just kind of gives, I don't know, like I might be just preaching to the choir here or just complaining to complain, but like some of the stuff just rubs me the wrong way. Like he was on an interview with WEEI's Will Fleming and Sean McDonough last week or a couple days ago, where he had a comment where he said, quote, "I think I'm a difference maker at first base. I want the ball every single time." Really, because you don't play like you do. And you're a difference maker in the wrong way. I think all the infielders are a little more confident when I'm over there. My size makes a difference and my footwork is immaculate, which no, it is not. And to me, like I read that this came after the report that he was going to be benched and that the Celtics, the Red Sox were going to go with Justin Turner at first base a little bit more. To me, I think all the infielders are a little more confident when I'm over there at first base. Like, I don't know, that to me maybe reads like a shot towards anybody else that tries to play the first base position. Like maybe he's just kind of throwing a little shade at Justin Turner, thinking I'm a better player over there than you. Like, why are you over here? And guys want to play with me there more than you, which I don't know if that's the case. Cause again, Casas is starting to cost them games. And then he had a post-game interview with Jemai Webster in Minnesota, where he was asked about his defensive improvements, and he went out of his way to kind of throw another shot where he was like, quote, he said, quote, yeah, thanks for noticing that, Jemai. I have been working really hard on my defense. Everyone in the organization is a perfectionist, and we want to make sure every time I step on the field, I'm giving the team the best chance to win. Like,
Yeah,
again,
that's a sick attitude, dude.
absolutely. Like, the guy thinks he's all high and mighty over there at first base. Meanwhile, again, you can't just do the basic things. He also had a comment too, where he had a big home run in that game. So again, I'm not knocking his offensive capabilities and his improvements there. But was asked about, the team effort, stuff like that, good team win, and then kind of again went out of his way to be like, yeah, I had the dagger home run in the game. I kind of put the thing
Yeah.
away. Like,
he's starting to piss me off.
yeah, he's one of those people I feel like that just almost talks to hear themselves talk, like that type of thing where it's like, dude,
Ooh, so edgy, Mr.
Yeah.
Edgelord.
I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, just shut up and play baseball. Cause like, again, you have the right to, say what you want to say, and as long as it's not anything crazy. But again, dude, when you're costing teams games, and again, you can't do the basic things that children are taught in the sport. Cover the base right. Don't throw behind the runner. Don't back up on a ball. Don't make yourself small to a ball. Attack it. Don't let it attack you. Those type of things. Like, then you can maybe have these comments that make you, again, you seem like you're better than you are. So that's just kind of where I'm at with him. Like, again, I get it's a young player. I get there's going to be growing pains, but at what point does somebody sit there and go, dude, you got to look in the mirror and see how you're playing, and you're not backing this talk up right now. Like, if you were just talking about your offensive ability, then sure, you have every right because you have turned things around there. But your defense is just absolutely ridiculous. And some of the stuff, like my footwork is immaculate. I'm a difference maker. Like, that type of thing is going to rub people the wrong way. And it did last year. Those were the reports. That some of the veterans kind of, again, were rubbed the wrong way with some of the stuff he was doing. I think it was more so the off-field stuff of sunbathing and stuff like that. But maybe with stuff like this and comments like that, you're starting to see a little bit of why some of the unnamed veterans were looking at this kid like, who the hell do you think you are? And what are you doing exactly?
Yeah, agreed. Unfortunately, with this bullshit alarm, I'm gonna wrap this up and get the
Call
intro
it.
done so I don't have to have a conniption on air.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 149 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. You can rate and review on Spotify and Apple. You can find us on the Full Press Cover Twitch and YouTube channels. You can find us on Twitter at Mike_Cratty, at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Selling Cratty Pod. We're also on TikTok. Throw Salvaggio and Cratty into the search bar. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people, all that good stuff. And we'll talk to you next week at the start of free agency for the NHL.
Woohoo.
Later.